So here we go. Yesterday I actually saw, because it was after I was done streaming, I think, that Ethan Klein talked to Ali London. Ali London is a very bizarre person. We'll get into it. But I'm curious about the conversation. I really am. I wanted to actively watch it. And then, of course, people recommended it in my Discord. So it's kind of like a, 2-for-1 special, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, let's get this party started. Let's go.
We should mute chat for this segment, probably.
That's nice of him.
As we do during interviews.
I guess I should have done that when I talked to a Cheeto. I didn't realize people were going to dislike a Cheeto so much. It's kind of mean. I felt bad. He's a nice young man.
Hi, Ethan. How's it going?
Hello, Ollie. Nice to meet you and sit and chat with you.
Oh, nice to meet you, Ollie.
Nice to see you. I like your outfit. Very French with the hat.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oi, guys. Nice to meet you. I got myself some Chinese. Oh, look at these fries with a little chili sauce. Beautiful stuff, am I right? That's beautiful stuff.
And I think you look wonderful, too. We're kind of doing the same thing with our hats, aren't we?
Wasn't planned, but yeah.
Let me see your profile. Turn to the side. Let me see how it's looking.
The fuck's that?
Oh, I've actually quit surgery.
No. I mean the beanie. I'm not commenting on your surgery.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant my face.
The beanie's sitting,
Yeah, no, it's very cool. How's your day so far?
So we're just getting set up here a little bit. So tell me, when was your last surgery? I'm curious.
So I actually quit surgery. Well, my last surgery was last April.
He's quit surgery like someone quits alcohol. That's wild. Oh, I quit surgery. Oh, did you? That doesn't make sense to me. Because usually you get a surgery, right? Like, because you need it. You don't like get you don't have like a habitual. You don't habitually get surgeries. So weird, very weird.
But I've completely quit, and I'm never going to do surgery again. I had, recently I had a non-surgical facelift, but it's no surgery, it's Fred's. Because, you can do the same thing these days without the actual surgery. And I was getting to a point, even where I would have probably died, because I was going, I've probably gone under anesthetic 3 times every year. I was going under anesthetic, so it was like I could have died.
Hey, I'd get under Anna if she rides good. You know what I'm saying?
I read somewhere that you spent $300,000 on plastic surgery. I've always wondered, like, where do you get... That's a lot of money. Where'd you get that money?
Sugar baby, dude.
Well, actually, I used to, before I started doing, social media and K-pop and stuff, I actually was a successful personal shopper. So I had my own personal shopping business in London. So
a personal shopper? What is a personal shopper? What do you mean? Like a Peapod person that you go around to like Stop and Shop and stuff and you buy people stuff? Or what is that personal shopper? Or is it like the person that my wife paid to buy her a Disney bag inside of Disney and then send it to her for an upcharge? Because I guess we've done that before because she really wanted a Disney bag and then Disney Crocs and a Disney ears. And so I got that for her. It was like a gift. Just like a random gift. I just kind of get my wife gifts sometimes. We got our taxes back yesterday, and we got a lot back. I overpaid significantly. I've been having friends reach out to me, YouTuber individuals. They're like, "Oh man, taxes really suck. I had to pay this many tens of thousands of dollars," and I'm like, "I didn't because I just paid quarterly." Like, what is a quarterly tax? It's like you're supposed to pay quarterly taxes, bro. So I paid significantly more than I need to. That's something my mother taught me. So now we have like a real nice chunk of change that I have back, so that we can get do whatever we have to do. We might go out like on vacation, or we might get a new dishwasher or something, because this one is broken. This bitch is fucking complaining all the time, asking me to buy my dishwasher's asking me to buy her Disney stuff all the time. We need a new one. So that's what I say. Pay more tax than you need to. Even before I was doing this, I would write down that they would take an additional $25 a check out of my federal tax, and then at the end of the year, you get like a nice chunk of change. Do that. It's a nice way to save money. It works out really well. So that's what I recommend. You don't even miss it. Oh, $10. Imagine doing $10 a check. If you get paid every week, it's $5,000 at the end of the year. That's $500 at the end. So
I used to dress like really, like very wealthy ladies, celebrities.
Okay, like a stylist.
Members of the royal family. So I was dressing them in like Gucci and Tom Ford.
Also, I would never claim myself on my taxes until the end of the year. I'd just do different things that would give me more money back, so I'd get some money.
And stuff, and you get a very high commission for that. So basically I did all that, spent a lot of the money on the surgery.
I see.
And now I've got like a PR company basically helping influencers get publicity and help them get placements in like television and advertisements and stuff like that, and getting the brand deals. And of course I do my own social media, and I've got a book as well coming out this year.
Well, that's
right.
real,
We'll
right
talk
proper.
about that. But did you say you dressed members of the royal family?
Not the British royal family. So I'd actually met with Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands, and she shopped with me. She bought some
you
handbags
with the Queen?
for me.
Damn.
Yeah, no, but I met loads of people. I met, the Prime Minister of Thailand, the ex-Prime Minister. I used to shop with his wives and girlfriends.
Wow.
It's interesting. I actually met Michelle Obama. People, that's basically a queen. But people don't believe me because the only picture I have with them is before a transition. I'm sorry. That's not nice.
It's been hard to leave that behind because, you moved to South Korea, and we're all familiar with that whole journey. That must have been hard to leave all that behind if you were doing so well.
Actually, that was before. So when I lived in Korea as an English teacher, that was actually before. So it was basically, I was younger. I wanted an experience abroad, went to do some teaching in Korea. And then after I got back to London, I started getting into fashion. I had some friends doing fashion. And then over a couple of years, I worked my way up from a stylist to a personal shopper, and kind of did that for about 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk, Ollie, about, well, first of all, thank you for coming on. I understand you're promoting a book entitled Gender Madness, which comes out August 1st. So congratulations. This is your first book. Very exciting. Gender Madness. Also,
I wonder what's that about. Wait, is Ollie London anti-trans? That I wouldn't think that, considering they thought that they were transracial, and I'm sure we will at some point identify the difference between being transgender and transracial. I wish I will, because all right, we'll just do it now, okay? Because people always ask, well, if you can change your gender, why can't you change your sex? Well, there's a few reasons. For one, transracial exists, and it has for a while. But transracial doesn't mean that you have such an intense amount of distress associated with your skin color you want to change it. It's mostly reserved for people who are adopted. So, if you're a white person adopted by a black family, or the reverse, or whatever, you may become transracial in some capacity where you identify with a different culture that's out of the norm. But additionally, there's significant differences between men and women, whereas there's not really a lot of differences between black people, white people, or any other races. It's very much skin color and some very irrelevant characteristics that don't really manifest as much, and so people just don't develop the same drastic amount of dysphoria. You can. It's not. There's no observation of a wide scale amount of people who are transracial, but we've identified an actual mental health issue. Or mental health condition, however you want to say it, of people with gender dysphoria, and we kind of just operate from there. I imagine if we did have a whole bunch of people that were transracial, genuinely, and they had an intense amount of distress, that maybe we'd be talking about something different. But the reality is, the reason why that isn't like that is because there's almost no real difference. There's no discernible or real or meaningful difference between black and white people, but there is between men and women. There are pretty meaningful differences. So.
You wanted to announce,
for instance, men are from Venus. No, men are from Jupiter. I think they get more stupider, right? And women are from Venus because they like to suck penis. Got it.
Announced that you're the new spokesperson.
I thought he was transracial. He wasn't. Didn't he think he was Asian or something? I could swear Ollie London thought that they were fucking Korean. What are you talking about? Ollie London absolutely thought that they were fucking Korean. They got surgeries to make them different. Oh, okay, he fetishized Koreans. Okay. I could swear that this motherfucker thought that they were transracial, and they thought they were fucking Korean. That's true. I covered it a long time ago. Ollie London being Korean. Go with that. Incredible stuff. Yeah, that's transracial. He was trolling. Oh, stop. You guys shut the fuck up. Okay, good troll then.
For Fairness First PAC, Caitlyn Jenner's organization, who famously ran someone over. But that's actually not the most important thing about Caitlyn Jenner.
So basically, I've got a new
Did Caitlyn Jenner ran? I remember South Park made fun of that. I don't quite know the story, but it's kind of funny.
Book coming out August 1st, and basically a lot of people have obviously followed my journey over the years, and obviously I've struggled a lot with identity.
So they used to also say that they were transgender. Oh, that makes sense. They seem to have some kind of just generally some kind of a identity issue that they have no idea how it manifests. Which makes sense as to why they might have previously claimed that they were transgender and it wasn't really authentic or had gender dysphoria. So, but okay.
And I had some very unhealthy behaviors, basically due to my addiction to surgery, my body dysmorphia, which later turned into gender dysphoria. So I really struggled with that, and it was unhealthy. And I completely accept my past. I don't try to deny the person I was, and I had some kind of bizarre behaviors, basically in an attempt to feel validated and to try and feel loved, because I really resented
so I want to get into
all
those things. Okay. I'm really interested in your journey from you identified as a trans woman right? And then you kind of
really
found
for how long? I could have swore that wasn't part of it when I watched it. Is this like a recent thing that I just didn't like? That's interesting.
God and pivoted to becoming a white British Christian man. Is that, do I have the synopsis correct?
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but yes. So I'm back to being myself now and like found happiness.
Okay. So I just want to get a few things straight. So do you still identify as gay?
Yes. So I'm still gay, but I have dated girls before, and I still.
So you're bisexual, I guess.
Or, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And you don't identify as Korean anymore.
No,
obviously.
correct.
And then also, are you pro gay rights?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm part of the LGBT community. I support people. My issue is just.
I like that. They said they're part of the LGBT community, but they didn't say the T. It sounded like. I wonder if that's intentional.
What's happening to children and also the erosion of women's rights. But I fully support people as an adult making an informed decision to change themselves. But I don't support children being medically transitioned.
So that's fair. I completely understand that. I'll say this now so that we don't have to like say it over and over again in the future, because I understand the apprehensiveness for kids to transition. Because bro, like your school and life is so toxic for children. I feel like high school is such a confusing time, and I'm so apprehensive, and I wouldn't want these kids to get misdiagnosed and then end up having even worse identity issues. Because there's just so much going on. But the problem too, though, is that every trans person that you talk to, they knew that they were trans from like the fact that when they were a kid. So clearly there are such things as trans children. It's just like, how can you parse them out? But for me, I don't think I'm against kids transitioning, not surgically, maybe hormonally. I want to be against it, but I always think of it from a human perspective. And like, let's say I had a kid who had gender dysphoria. I went to because I know I would try to diagnose it the right way. I'd go to multiple doctors. I'd try to get everything down. And let's say I had a kid and I went to like 3 doctors, and every one of them were like, yeah, your kid has gender dysphoria. And my kid has been saying since they were like 4 that they just feel different, and now they're 12 and there's something going on and they're unhappy, and they don't even have to be suicidal. They're just like not happy. They're miserable. I wouldn't want to deny my kid the ability to just be happy. I wouldn't want my kid to be trans. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants their kid to have like some form of oppression in some capacity. But like, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? So I just hope I never have to go through that. Ultimately, I think it should be left to the parents and doctors, and hope that everything goes well, and hope that these kids are happy as they get older. I mean, we are seeing people detransition and talk about that. I have a detransitioning friend who talks about how when she was younger, she thought she had gender dysphoria, and she went to the doctor and they were too affirming, and it turns out that they were wrong. And I just hope that we if it is something that we do, medically transitioning, I hope that it's done right, and that we don't have a massive amount of people that detransition as they get older, because that's the part that I'm scared about more than anything else. So, but I can understand the apprehensiveness about kids transitioning. I get it. I understand that.
You do support trans people in general.
So absolutely. So I support, people as an adult making a decision if they want to change and they're happy with that. But I feel that unfortunately the trans movement has been hijacked by a small but growing group of trans activists, which are basically pushing kind of an erosion of women's rights. So that's what I really take an issue with. There's a lot of trans.
What does that mean, erosion of women's rights? I don't know. What does he mean by that?
Trans people have a lot of trans friends. I know what it's like to be trans, that really just want to live their lives. And they're actually having a tough time now because of these trans activists. So my issue is with trans activists and not actual trans people.
So what does he mean by that? Does he mean like there are some areas that are frustrating, I can see, for like women and stuff? Like, I think Caitlyn Jenner won like Woman of the Year, which is kind of like bizarre because, I guess the best woman is somebody, who's mostly a man. I'm just kidding. That's no, but it is like, I'm sorry. Or used to be a man. I don't know. Men are just better at everything, right? No, but all jokes aside, I'm sorry. All jokes aside, I could see why some people would be frustrated. You have like Leah Thomas winning in sports. Trans women shouldn't be competing with cis women in sports. I don't think that any trans person is trying to transition to get some kind of like a leg up, but you still have a biological advantage. You're still going to you're not going to have to put in as much work to be successful, as a trans person, unfortunately, in sports. And I don't say that to, be rude, but that's just kind of the reality. And so maybe some people are frustrated with that, I suppose. I will say that there is a little bit of a flip side, though, that like we are talking way too much about trans issues, in my opinion. They're important to talk about, but we talk about them massively disproportionately higher than we need to. And I think part of that is because conservatives have nothing else going on other than talking about trans people. There's really no meaningful legislation from conservatives in politics. We have issues of healthcare, we have issues of poverty, we have issues of inflation, and conservatives are just not coming to the table on any of those, and they're just like hyperinflating trans issues. And it's fine to have issues with some of these different things, and I get it. but it's all that they have. And so, like, we're talking about it too much. It's becoming too front and center. And what happens is when you talk about it that much, what ends up happening, it becomes more popular. And now people are, it's the only thing that we're talking about now. It's somehow something that impacts like less than 5% of our population, if that, has become number one issue number one. So it's a little crazy. And even last year, the conservatives were just talking about gay people. They were trying to get rid of gay marriage. They were trying to make it so that they would overturn the Supreme Court ruling that protected gay marriage. And like, oh, states should be able to choose, which is ridiculous. We have separation of church and state. So if you want to blame it on anybody, what this disproportionate conversation about trans people, it's conservatives. That's the reason why people are talking so much about it. So if you want to talk about it less, come up with a different strategy, conservative content creators.
Okay, so you say, here's a tweet of yours from just the end of last month, not that long ago, right? Or no? Is not simply to exist. The goal is to erase women, mutilate children, sexualize kids, take away free speech, class pedophilia as an identity.
Nobody's trying to really do that.
Remove parental rights, indoctrinate kids, violence to obtain, and they're willing to do violence to obtain their goals.
Jesus.
So when you say the trans movement, it seems to me that you are speaking generally about trans people.
That does
this goal. And when you say trans movement, I don't know exactly what you mean, because it seems that most trans people, or that I've seen, maybe with the exception of Caitlyn Jenner, it seems to disagree with this, seems to identify as being parts of the trans movement. So what is the difference between, what is the trans movement? Who is a member of that? What is this organization?
So what I'm talking about here is the trans movement in the trans activist movement. So the people pushing these ideologies. So we see every single day, just yesterday, the Texas state capitol was invaded. The trans protesters went there. We see women being attacked at women's rights.
Well, just because people are protesting doesn't mean that they're trying to push an agenda. People, like, if your agenda is I want trans people to be treated equally, that's a fine agenda. If your actual objective is to harm people, I don't see that in the trans movement.
He's physically attacked, and we're seeing this trans activist movement pushing for gender affirming care on kids, which is basically putting 11, 12-year-old kids on very harmful hormones. So that's what I'm talking about.
They're not necessarily really harmful. Again, I tend to, I'm not really a big fan of that movement, going in that direction. But I mean, if the science seems to so far support it, so I'm more worried about people getting the access to mental health care. I don't think there's anything predatory about it, though. It's more just trying to help people live their authentic lives, or what they think is. I just think that kids may not be able to make that decision, But
when I talk, I'm not generalizing every single trans person. I'm talking about the current trans movement, which has been hijacked by trans activists. And I really think that trans...
I just don't know what that means. Hijacked by trans activists. Like, who else is going to have a trans... Like, but an active... Like, the problem I have with what he's saying is that activism is a shit video game company. No. Activism in general is just kind of you advocating for a group. And trans people in general, again, since with the hyper obsession from conservatives on trans people, there's still room for activism. Right? Like, I would say that we could provide gender affirming care to adults, which sounds really great. Not harass trans people that want to go into the bathroom that they are expressing themselves as. That's great. But the problem is that most conservatives are really against all of that. And so the activism movement is more about that. So activism is okay. But when you say trans activism is trying to do all these things, it's not like you're saying some parts of the trans activism is going too far. What you're just saying is that the entire advocacy for trans people is too much. That's what we're hearing. There's a problem, right?
People that have been living as a trans person their whole life, they need to speak out against this, because the problem is that the LGBT community is being hijacked by these radical people.
Let me ask,
I will say, a lot of trans people would probably be on board with gender affirming care for kids, but because most people with gender dysphoria, they experience these feelings since they were children. So they're like, no, I wish this was for me when I was young, right? I get it, because I'm very shaky on that topic, but that would be their logic. So why would they disagree? Because that's really what it comes down to. This is something that largely is either biological for some genetic factor, or within the womb washing, some kind of a biological factor. And I'm sure that there's a bit of an environmental factor as well, but that's mostly where it comes from. So
cut you off, but I just want to address things you said already, right? So you say that the people who are demonstrating at the Texas Capitol are part of this trans movement, who wants to, sexualize kids and this whole list of things. they were there to protest a bill, SB 14, that would ban gender-related treatment for minors. So
Okay.
these guys are, I guess, see that as an affront as being transphobic. But you disagree because what is minor? Anyone 17 and under? Do you believe that ever there would be a 17-year-old that needed gender-affirming care?
So minors basically classified anyone under 18, and
I would like to know what Ethan's perspective is on this topic before we even get into it. Like, I mean, I'm assuming Ethan is all for it, but I'd like to hear. And I don't, and this isn't even meant to be rude. I don't know if he'd be able to flesh it out very well, knowing Ethan. But I would wonder. Maybe I'm just being wrong. But I wonder what his perspective is. Like, do you believe that we should be having gender affirming care for kids? Because there's different types. If you ask me, like, I think that there should absolutely, regardless, be access to therapy for anybody of any age that has gender dysphoria. Social transitioning, 100% for that is to do. It's completely reversible. Very apprehensive of puberty blockers, but all the science right now is saying that like that is the correct way to go, which will obviously, if it's not, we'll end up finding that out in a few years because that's how things work. You know, you have to, unfortunately, you have to experiment. So, you know, they're operating on their best understanding, and maybe years from now, we might realize that we weren't doing the right thing. Doubtful. But there's probably aspects of it that might be fleshed out, of course. You know, hopefully we get better at properly diagnosing. So I don't know how I feel about puberty blockers. You know, that's for the professionals to decide, I suppose. But I wonder what Ethan's. I'm sure he'll get into it.
What these people were protesting against was the fact that Texas is trying to pass a law to ban hormones and puberty blockers and gender reassignment surgery being administered to children.
I don't think that surgeries are happening to kids. Maybe some people 16. Maybe I haven't really seen these things happening to people under 18 though. But maybe I'm wrong. I just haven't seen it.
Basically. So, I think these people, firstly, that was an unlawful protest. You can't just go into a state capitol and do that. And if they want to have
Are you in favor of only lawful protests?
Well, I think, people need to follow the law. And if they want to have a protest, they can have that dialogue. But outside the State House, you can't just storm in a State House. I mean, it's comparable to January 6th when people stormed the Capitol.
Well, it's not comparable to January 6th in any meaningful way, but it is wrong. You shouldn't be doing that. But January 6th was Donald Trump saying that, like, we literally need to, in some capacity, have an insurrection because I won and we need to fight. And was using, like, language that was encouraging, like, actual violence. This, if it's illegal, they shouldn't be doing the way that they're doing it. They shouldn't have stormed the Capitol building. I doubt that it was as violent as January 6th. January 6th gave police officers legitimate PTSD who were guarding those buildings. And people on Fox News laughed at them as they expressed that PTSD. So, gotta love the direction that we're going for conservatives when you're laughing at, brave police officers doing their job and then them getting post-traumatic stress disorder and then you mocking them because of that. So, back the blue, unless they disagree with us,
Which was unlawful as well. So I think, these people were not protesting about their rights being taken away. It's the fact that they were protesting against a bill that would have actually protected children. So I think that's really harmful.
Maybe.
Some would say that it's actually harming kids, right, to make it illegal to do this because as you probably know, or I think you did at one point, is that gender affirming care on children is exceedingly rare. It's actually so rare that it's if to express like irreversible gender changes on children is something like I've got the number here, 0.000493% of U.S. children aged 6 through 17 go through irreversible gender changes. So I guess I'm just.
It's interesting. I wonder how they classify irreversible. I wonder what that means. Because I mean that could be slightly, and I wouldn't say a matter of opinion, but like what point is it reversible? Is it after being on hormones for a certain amount of time, or puberty blockers? Because I know you can go on puberty blockers for like a year and you can come off of it and like everything goes back to normal, but I can't imagine it's like perfectly back to normal. I imagine that a little bit of interference might happen in some capacity. But okay, I get what he's saying.
Curious.
And then there's also the conversation about, like, if you're a young person and let's say that you go on puberty blockers, you're a trans person, my understanding is not developing let's say you're a trans woman, right? You need to develop a penis. You need to go through male puberty to be able to turn your penis into a vagina. Like, that's my understanding. Like, you need enough wiener skin to kind of push it inside. That's my understanding. And I think it's something similar for trans men as well. could be wrong, but like there's something to, and there's possibility of if you go on those hormones, you know, puberty blockers, and then you go through that gender affirming care, you may not be able to have kids, right? Because now it's my understanding. I could be misinformed on that, but that seems to be a genuine concern when it comes to it. But also, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. But there's a few different concerns. I've never really heard anybody address that problem. You know, trans affirming people, and I haven't really been able to find something about like the long-term capacity of going on puberty blockers, then not going through like the puberty of your assigned gender at birth or whatever, of your sex puberty, we'll say. You know, could that make you infertile in the future? Or I guess you'd start producing semen like at 1 year old, right? Is that real? Right, I think that's true. I don't know. Some of the stuff's a little complicated.
Because in the cases where they do undergo it, it's usually to save their life, right? Because they might be suicidal or yeah, right. And they go through like panels, they go through multiple rounds of talking to psychiatrists and doctors. So I guess I'm just curious, why is it you think that this is threatening kids instead of actually helping kids who are at high risk of hurting themselves?
So, Ethan, about 10 years ago, when gender-affirming care was performed on whether that was minors or adults, there was a lot of checks and balances. Now it has become so easy. So they don't have the psychiatrist appointments anymore. They don't have, you know...
Yes, they do. You have to see a therapist to get gender-affirming care. That's... I don't know what you're referring to there, but... Having
to wait several years to transition. Now it's a very fast-track process, and that's the real issue, because...
It might be faster. It might be faster, but my understanding is that, like, it's 6 months. You have to have, like, be diagnosed with gender dysphoria for, like, 6 months. In order to go through some form of transition. It's not just like
many of these teens, and we're seeing thousands of teens being transitioned and put on hormones. The number's really gone up in the last few years. Now, many of these teens are struggling with other issues. There's a high case, around 1 in 6.
Yeah, there's comorbidities to gender dysphoria, anxiety, depression. Some of those are probably societal, where like, you know, you're getting harassed or you're looked down upon for being trans, so it's going to cause you to have other like issues. And some of that might actually just kind of be very inherent because, you know, you're having a gender identity crisis and it's just frustrating you. Yeah.
These children have autism. They're being misdiagnosed. There's also kids with depression, bipolar, and they're being told these children have autism. Are struggling with other issues. There's a high case, around 1 in 6 of these children have autism.
There seems to be like if you have autism, you're like much more likely to. I think the number is that people with autism are like 5 times more likely than people without autism to have gender dysphoria, but that doesn't mean that it's invalid. That just sounds interesting about the way that people with autism might interact with the concept of gender. Okay.
They're being misdiagnosed. There's also kids with depression, bipolar, and they're being told it must be, all of these issues must be because they're in the wrong gender, and they are being fast-tracked. There was a case in Missouri at the St. Louis Children's Hospital, and basically a whistleblower unveiled that they only required like 1 session with a therapist to get a child on hormones and puberty blockers. So that's the...
Oh, what is that case?
In Missouri at the St. Louis Children's Hospital, and basically a whistleblower unveiled that they only required like 1 session with a therapist to get a child on hormones and puberty blockers. So that's the issue when a system is being exploited. And you know, there's been trans people forever throughout history. There's so many examples of trans people. But the thing is now is, you know, previously, as difficult as it was, because it's so hard when you're...
Where would I look that up? How would I find that? I'd like to look into that.
Trans to struggle and to think every day that I'm trapped in the wrong body. It is horrific to go through that. But the problem is, you know, years ago they would have 2 to 3 years they would have to undergo of psychiatrist appointments, doctor's appointments in order to qualify for a transition. Now it has become so easy, and there are
I think it's like 6 months to a year now, which would kind of make sense that we would be able to fast track it as we got better at providing the care. Let's see. This is what I'm assuming he's referencing. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey confirms launch of multi-agency investigation into St. Louis Transgender Center for harming hundreds of children. Whistleblowers gone public with the allegations about the pediatric transgender license. St. Louis Children's Hospital. For instance, 2 weeks ago, the Attorney General a full investigation, shocking allegations. They received a sworn affidavit from whistleblower documents to support her allegations. Blah, 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 blah. Interesting investigation. We was discussing allegations. In the hospital, hundreds of children each year, including by using experimental drugs on them. Okay, so they might be using experimental drugs. Okay, division. I'm gonna put this in the description, of course, for the like the live video, and I can put this in here for you guys. I'm trying to just kind of skim it a little bit. Let's see. The division of professional registration and its 41 licensing boards license over 525,000 Missourians. More than 3. Okay, partly the division of boards protect the public. Blah 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 blah. Receives part of the investigation. Take necessary action against the licenses. Okay. Okay, potential fraud, waste, and abuse in the system. Okay, that's not good. Investigating concerns. Okay, I'm happy they're investigating. Okay, so the parents are fully aware of the nature of the allegations. A sworn affidavit asserts, among other things, that the individuals at the center are using experimental drugs on children, distributing puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones without individualized assessment, and are even giving children these life-altering drugs without parental consent. The whistleblower says that the actions taken by the center have led children to attempt suicide, and the center never discloses discontinues prescribing cross-sex hormones no matter how much those drugs are harming the child. Interesting. Specific allegations. On several occasions, doctors have continued prescribing medical transition even when a parent stated that they were revoking consent. Okay, the center does not require children to continue with mental health care after they prescribe cross-sex hormones or puberty blockers, and even continue those medications when the patient's directly reporting worsening mental health. Okay, interesting. These are all claims, but it's interesting. There's a lot here. Puberty blockers worsen the mental health of the children who have not contemplated suicide before, or puberty blockers have. Okay, apparently. Okay, interesting. It is in my belief that the center does not track these outcomes because they do not want to have to report them to the new patients. Okay, that's a belief. During the time at the center, I personally witnessed center healthcare providers lie to the public and the patients. Okay. So there's a lot here. It looks like they're investigating this place, which is a good thing to investigate. It doesn't mean that this is inherently correct. But it's good that they're investigating this to make sure. This center might be doing the wrong thing. That doesn't mean that it's bad. So from everything that I read, it sounded like they were potentially giving drugs to kids. That's not an issue with providing gender-affirming care. That would be an issue with that hospital specifically doing the wrong thing. Like, obviously, if you put somebody on a drug and it's getting worse for them, you would probably want to take them off. So I don't know if this is real, or rather, we don't know if they're true yet. These are allegations, but it's like, of course, like, you know, you should be operating correctly. You need to make sure that if a kid is having worsening mental health conditions through going through the care that you're giving them, it's not really care anymore, is it? Right. So that's an issue of like some form of misdiagnosis.
Thousands of kids being fast-tracked and put on hormones prescriptions, and some kids can now go to states like Colorado or Washington State, which have become sanctuary states, and they don't.
I want to actually address what you said about you had said something about Jamie Reed's allegations, right? But that was debunked, right? Because the parents and the children there who actually were attending that facility actually told a completely different story. Have you read their account of that?
Yes, so I saw recently that they did an internal investigation. They said it wasn't true, but no, I don't believe that.
Well, that seems significant.
Oh, okay. So the counterclaim is that it's not true. Like I said, if they're doing those things, it's wrong. That's bad, but it doesn't speak to trans people in general. It just speaks to that hospital.
Yes, but I don't believe that at all because
you don't
they're trying to cover their back.
You don't believe the internal investigation?
Oh, they finished the internal investigation? Oh, okay. Well,
no, because there were multiple parents. When the Daily Caller originally did the interview with Jamie Reed, there were multiple parents that said basically their kids weren't looked after once they left the clinic. They were done by the clinic and they're profiting.
Oh, so there's an investigation that cleared them of all charges. So, okay. Oh, cool.
So the internal investigation said there was no wrongdoings. The patients said there was no wrongdoings. So I guess I'm just curious.
Let's see. I'm looking into this. To be diagnosed with gender dysphoria as a teenager or adult, you must have experienced significant stress for the last 6 months due to at least 2 of the following marked. Okay, I just wonder how long it takes to get this diagnosis. I'm still looking at it.
The people who are claiming that there was something wrong there is like the Daily Caller, Tucker Carlson. Are you saying that they don't have a bias?
Well, I mean, a lot of people have a bias and stuff, but, you know, we have to look at these gender clinics as a whole.
I mean, they just let Tucker go because of how much of a little kooky he is.
Project Veritas exposed multiple clinics the other day of talking about medically transitioning 8 to 11-year-olds. So we have to acknowledge that clinics the other day have a bias and stuff, but, you know, we have to look at these gender clinics as a whole. Project Veritas exposed multiple clinics the other day of talking about medically transitioning 8 to 11-year-olds. So
that's not good, but I also don't respect or trust anything Project Veritas does because they're not a particularly credible organization. So everything that I keep seeing about them, you know, if like maybe Fox News, I mean, they're not super credible either, but if they picked it up and pushed it as a fact, I'd be more willing to listen to it. But yeah, Project Veritas is a mess. So
we have to acknowledge that this is going on in a lot of clinics, and a lot of these clinics are trying to cover their backs by trying to paint a rosy picture that it's perfect.
Did you say
fine.
Project Veritas?
Yes, they did an undercover investigation.
That's the guy who got ousted for being like a sex criminal and like scam artist, James O'Keefe. That's his organization, right?
He's not part of that organization now. So the organization that left.
I thought he left the organization. Incredible.
Project Veritas, the original organization, did this investigation.
They don't have a lot of credibility, Veritas. It seems like every investigation they do is just chock full holes of untruths and just blatant lies. I don't think it's a very credible institution for pulling data from.
Well, there's multiple organizations like Project Veritas that do expose
Which other ones?
So Gays Against Groomers, I'm an ambassador for them. They are also exposing this happening in clinics.
Gays Against Groomers. So
have you heard of them?
I haven't, but who's the groomer then?
So basically, Gays Against Groomers is an organization of hundreds of LGBT people. It includes trans people as well. Basically, this organization is calling out the harms. They're doing investigations of gender clinics, calling out the harms of doing this to kids. Because look,
where's the grooming come in, though? That's the part that I find like really inflammatory. Because grooming implies that trans people or trans activists, and it's what you said here in this tweet, that they're pedophiles, that they're sexualizing kids.
So the grooming in this instance would refer to people that are actively trying to make kids trans, which seems silly to me. Right. You might think that some of the ways that they perform, like their methodology, might be inappropriate, and that's fine. But grooming is a very active, methodical, intentional thing, usually to set children up for sexual exploitation.
Schoolboy Pookie9 super chatted $4.99. Hi Papa, I love you. Do you plan on playing the new Star Wars game?
Do you mean the new Fortnite Star Wars update? No, but I don't know what game you're talking about. But okay.
So where's that evidence come from? Because it's one thing to say we're against, gender affirming care for minors, but it's a whole different thing to say, they're grooming.
That's true.
Well, that word is basically used because we're seeing many drag shows, like adult drag shows, where kids are attending, and it's very sexually explicit. So that is a form of grooming.
It's not a form of grooming. So I want to be very clear about this. A couple of things. Okay. One, not all the drag shows that kids go to are sexually explicit. Not all drag is sexually explicit. Kids, specifically reading to kids in a library, is not a sexually explicit act. Just the existence of drag isn't sexually explicit, but there are sexually explicit aspects. What they're referring to is there is that weird inappropriate nightclub, which I think is wrong. And then there's also this thing. This is the one that people talk about more now. There is this show that moms could take their kids to a drag show. And the concept of that, because I looked into it, was, hey, we have a drag show that you could bring your kids to so you don't have to find them babysitters. And it was a very sexualized show. Now, I think it's absolutely inappropriate and wrong. But also, I'm not going to assign a predatory intentionality because I'm not a 5-year-old fucking moron. So when I look at that, I see that the parents just want to be able to go see a fun drag show because women love looking at drag. Okay. And the drag people, they're just like, oh, we're having a fun show for the parents, and they bring their kids, and it's this way they don't have to get a babysitter. I think it's wrong. I think it's inappropriate. But is it like grooming? No, it's not. It's just like, hey, that's too far. I get it. But, instead of having the kids there, maybe have somebody outside the room doing daycare services. Right? So we have to understand that like grooming is an intentional, very methodical, very abusive process. Whereas this is just, hey, I think it's inappropriate.
We also see these kids' books in public libraries and in schools where they're teaching kids about drag and being trans. That's not a subject a kid should hear. So that is a form of.
That's not happening. Nobody's teaching about kids doing drag. What are you talking about in schools? There's like one banned book that shouldn't have never been in the library in the first place. It even says 18+, and they're like some idiot librarian put out this. What?
It's indoctrinating kids.
I've heard. I know that there was that one.
It's indoctrinating kids. By the way, though, I very much believe in religious institution. I think that you should be able to have your kid go and learn about a magic man in the sky that says slavery is okay. Listen, we're talking about indoctrination. More people have been hurt through religion than gay fucking drag people. Let's just be real. You want to talk about abusive indoctrination? What about a facility? And I don't like the concept of organized religion. I like God, do not like organized religion. An organized religion that says if you're gay, you are a horrible person that's going to hell. That's significantly distressful to kids. That says if you're trans, you're going to hell. That is destroying the minds of kids. That puts you in a scenario where an older man can bring you into a room one-on-one, do or say whatever they want to you, and you're told that you cannot talk about anything that was said because that's between you, God, and that priest. How many kids have been molested? How many priests that molest kids have been moved around from area to area without any consequence? You want to talk about some kind of, what did they say? Fucking grooming or whatever bullshit. What did they say? Conditioning or...
A subject a kid should hear. So that is a form of grooming because it's indoctrination.
So, indoctrination. You want to talk about indoctrination? What about the indoctrination of like religion destroying people? How many wars were created because of religion over ridiculous differences? People cry shit, come and cope about how it's like, no, Baba, the Bible doesn't actually say it's okay. You don't understand the context. You know, people back then, they thought slavery was okay. So God told them that a bad thing was okay because they thought it was okay back then. If God's this omnipotent creature or person that understands everything and what the moral good and bad and the moral right and wrongs of everything are, then why the fuck is he saying that slavery is okay and you can beat the shit out of your slave as long as you don't kill him in 2 fucking days? Why is he saying that you can go enslave people that aren't Christian or Catholic or whatever? Why is he saying these things? Well, either that's just fucking insane. If that's true, God's an asshole. What's more probably likely is that people wrote this scripture to be manipulative and to justify their shit, worthless fucking behavior so this way they can engage in slavery and make money. So we're going to sit here and talk about fucking indoctrination. I mean, which one is worse? I think that there are aspects of like fucking drag and, you know, having kids go there when you're fucking shaking and twerking is not good. But you want to talk about fucking indoctrination. Kids aren't getting like fucking abused, you know, because of a public library drag show or some weird shit. It's fucking weird. I definitely need to talk about it. But like, okay, what do you think is more abusive? Like, what does it be? Like, what? Which one? Like, stop it. Stop with the crybaby fucking pussy boy shit fit. Oh, indoctrination. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Just say, hey, I'm uncomfortable with some of these things. Let's talk about it. You don't have to turn something into like this widespread conspiratorial situation. It's fucking bananas.
I've heard, I know that there was that one drag show with kids that was kind of a hot button issue. What other examples can you think of drag shows with kids involved where they're being groomed?
So there's, in the last year, there's an investigative journalist, Taylor Hanson. He's exposed at least 20 drag shows in Texas that are called all ages drag shows. They're called all ages drag shows, and they're basically doing sex acts on stage. They have breasts. You know, they're doing very inappropriate things.
Women have breasts too. Did you know that? What is it called?
All ages drag shows.
Okay, all ages drag show, Texas. I'm gonna try to look into it. I don't care if it's a drag show for all ages. I care if it's a little too sexually explicit. But also, you know, we have very sexualized music now too, and so maybe call that out too. Maybe what? Because like, here's my thing. You want to call out all ages drag shows? Be my guest. Why aren't you calling out cheerleaders? Or like little kids jumping around fucking pushing their tits out. Why aren't you calling out beauty pageants? A bunch of kids in fucking gross ass bathing suits showing off their fucking shit and developing eating disorders. Why is it only fucking gay people that you're worried about? Like, just hate all of it, you know? And so like I see that and I'm just like, I don't think that you really care. I don't think that you care about kids. I think that you're just kind of complaining because you find something uncomfortable. You know, let's remember the parents, for whatever reason, are taking their kids here. So,
and they're basically doing sex acts on stage. They have breasts. You know, they're doing very inappropriate things. So, no, it's just.
So hold on, sorry, Ollie, you're making so many claims, and I just want to get to each one. You mentioned the organization Gays Against Groomers, which was founded by Jamie Mitchell. Is that right? So Jamie Mitchell and their partner are ultra MAGA Trump followers, and there's nothing wrong with being a Trump supporter, but they're also anti-transgender. They spread anti-transgender propaganda with QAnon conspiracy theories, and interestingly, the founders are straight. So how is it that they can make a Gays Against a Groomers organization when they themselves are not even gay? That seems disingenuous.
Yeah, it does seem a little.
Well, firstly, that's a Wikipedia page. You know, Wikipedia has a lot of bias with the way.
Wikipedia now has bias. Everything that disagrees has a bias. Maybe. I've never heard Wikipedia has a bias. I heard that you can't trust them by my school, and then I don't listen to the school because Wikipedia is the best source ever. But now they have a bias. Okay, interesting.
People that
write. So Jamie Mitchell is gay.
She's gay. She's a lesbian. All of the people, you have to be LGBT to be a member.
How do they check
of Gays
Sounds
Against
like
Groomers. So
how do they verify the credentials?
No, I mean, you know, if someone says they're gay or bi, you know, you accept that. You don't say, oh, can you prove that you support people being trans as an adult? But what they're trying to do is calling out the harm that we're seeing caused to children. And that's the real issue here, is about protecting kids.
Oh,
So
okay.
go back to your claim about grooming. So you brought up the drag show for kids.
Mhm.
Is there any other examples, or are we just talking about drag shows? Because I have to assume that the drag shows, even if it's as widespread as Project Veritas claims, which heaven knows how credible they are, there's got to be other examples to make such bold claims as that there's a whole movement trying to sexualize kids.
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at the music industry, you have really shocking performances like Sam Smith, for instance, who is pushing a specific agenda. He has concerts which are allowing all ages, and if you want.
Yeah, that's where you lose me. If you're just criticizing Sam Smith, all musicians will do this. All musicians, like women musicians too, are showing off their tits. Not all of them, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a huge group of like sexualized regular music shows where like kids of any age can get in there. They're not seen as like horribly explicit. If you're gonna sit here and talk specifically about Sam Smith, a gay guy doing sexualized things on the show, what about like, I don't know, the Dua Lipas of the world or whatever woman's also doing sexualized shit? Why is it only gay people? This guy's a fucking loser. That's what it comes down to. None of this is like genuine or honest in any capacity. Like, well, obviously this is pretty much where we hit that point where like this guy loses all credibility. Guys, if a gay guy does sexual things, that's grooming. When a girl does it, that's normal. Gays are bad. Like, that's where we're at. So
Want to be a musician, do whatever you want, but don't be doing sexually graphic things. He's doing imitating blowjobs. He has, fetish gear on, and there's kids in the audience, so it's not.
So then criticize the parents for taking their kid to that event. That's it. Criticize the parents. How about that instead? That makes more sense to me. But
Just about drag queens. It's about
yeah, Madonna's doing it. Back in the day, Elvis Presley, like, it was very sexual for them. When he used to gyrate his hips, that was supposed to be like illegal or something. How come you're not talking about how much of a sexual fucking delinquent Elvis Presley is? I mean, he didn't. He married like a kid, but you get my point. Talk more negatively about them, okay?
protecting kids in general. So even if it's Cardi B, I don't think kids should be at Cardi B concert if she's twerking or doing like something very, very sexual. I think it's just about.
So that's grooming too, though. I like how they're like, yeah, it's grooming when Sam Smith does it, but I don't think kids should be going to Cardi B. No, it's grooming to you. You think Cardi B is grooming children. Just say, I think Cardi B is grooming children. Listen, hopefully she's at least not drugging the kids, okay? And stealing stuff from them, because that's wrong. Okay? So.
It's grooming. I mean, but, you turn on the TV. I mean, you see stuff worse than that, right? On YouTube and stuff. To say they're grooming them seems pretty disingenuous and actually really homophobic and transphobic to put this label that they're groomers, because you understand the gravity of such a claim, right?
Well, it's a very loaded word. I get that, but it's not an attack on the LGBT community.
No, yes, it is, because it is a loaded word that is wrong. It is an incorrect word. It is not used here correctly. It is disproportionate and it is a lie. And so that's what makes it homophobic, is that you're being disproportionately criticizing LGBTQ people for their existence and doing the same sexualized performances as straight people do, but somehow it's grooming if they're gay, but it's not if they're straight.
At all. It's about basically calling out specific cases. It's not an attack on trans people.
I don't think Cardi B groomed grown men. You really can't groom an adult unless like something really incredible is going on. I think that she drugged them though. She's not good, but I don't think that she groomed them. But okay.
Calling out specific cases where children are being exposed to something that's highly inappropriate and trying to raise awareness of that. So it's not a label
I love Hooters.
That's attached to gay people, lesbians, trans people. It's literally about calling out specific instances.
I want to ask you about something specific. Actually, since you bring it up, I have seen something troubling from a trans person that I thought was kind of gross.
I'm playing World of Warcraft, but I'm playing on a private server.
They were selling, it was like a kid's t-shirt with a trans person on it, and then they had like kids' toys with trans people on it, and it was kind of gross and groomy. Have you seen anything like that before?
What is it talking about?
I've seen T-shirts that the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota wore, protect trans kids with a knife on it. Things like that. Okay. I've seen T-shirts that says protect trans rights with AK-47s on it and stuff. And I don't think that's helpful messaging and that's just trans activists, by the way, Ethan. This is a small number of people, and that's who I'm calling out.
But what if it said like protect police officers with a knife or an AK-47 on it? What if it said protect kids with an would you be the same? Because not for nothing, I just think that's cringe. But like, if it says like protects kids and has a gun on it, like that's an American thing to put guns and be like, hey, protect my precious moments with a gun on it. You know those precious moments, those little porcelain figures. Protect precious moments, and then has a gun on there. I would buy the fuck out of that shirt, by the way. I actually want to be very clear. I am cringe, but I don't really care about that. That's a very American thing to do, to say like, if I don't get my way, I'm going to shoot you. God bless, by the way. I love America. I fucking love it. But that's what a very American thing is. Let's be real. That is our culture. That's the only thing that we have left. Okay, is shooting people that disagree with us. We need that.
That's who Gays Against Groomers are calling it. It's not the trans community as a whole. Specific trans activists who have highlighted, have hijacked the trans movement.
I guess.
So actually, you know what's interesting, Ollie? If you go to your website right now, your merch website, I was actually talking about your merch. You are actually selling kids' lunchboxes with a picture of you depicted as a trans woman, and you're selling.
No, that's not a trans woman. That's not a trans woman. That's just a K-pop picture of me.
Oh, hey, okay. Well, K-pop is grooming, guys. Okay, that's what I say.
Because this is you. I had a feeling you would say that because here it is, you wearing that design, and it's pretty obvious to tell that this is depicting you. This is from just like a month ago, and
that's depicting you as a trans woman, and it is on a lunchbox. Damn, this is funny. I gotta say, I do like this Ethan a lot. This is fucking funny, dude. Holy shit. That's so true. By that logic, you're grooming kids because you have your face as a trans woman, even if you're not now, on the face of a lunchbox for kids, So
this is when you were trans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think it's appropriate to sell this to kids?
Well, it's a lunchbox with a picture of a K-pop cartoon.
Well, who else has lunchboxes except for kids? I mean, it's mostly a child. The lunchbox is a child's thing, no?
Trans. It's you as a trans woman.
It's me as a K-pop star. It's nothing to do with being trans or not. That's just a cartoon of me as a K-pop star. So it's not. That's not inappropriate.
Right, but at the time you were a trans woman.
Correct. At the time I was a trans woman, but
so it's you as a trans woman.
There's nothing inappropriate.
So it's you as a trans woman.
I love this. This is funny.
I was a trans woman at the time. That picture does not depict me as a trans woman. It depicts me.
But it does. You're a trans woman in the picture. Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't identify as that anymore. That is what you are in the picture. What the fuck is this person talking about?
As a K-pop star, but
I find that interesting that you're willing to make that separation when you're making such general claims about groomers and stuff. Because to me, by your own definition, this is pretty groomy. And even if you go, and this is all well, hold on, Ollie, hold on one sec. Even if you go on your website right now, you're selling the same graphic, Ollie London, Ollie Merch Squad, as you depicted as a trans woman. And if you look at the available sizes, it's just
Should I make merch? Would that be good for me to do? Papa got merch,
Kids, 3 to 4. Do you think it's appropriate for a 3 to 4 year old to buy this shirt?
Yeah, of course. Any K-pop fan, if they want to buy my merch, they're absolutely entitled to. There's nothing inappropriate with that merch at all.
That is a trans woman, Ollie. You're not understanding your own logic.
You're clutching at straws.
How am I? Okay, hold on. Let's follow this through. You were a trans woman when you made this. There's a picture of you wearing it. It's obviously you as a trans woman. Here's you as a trans woman, and here's you as a trans woman on the shirt, on a kid's shirt. How am I clutching at straws?
Well, you're clutching at straws. It's an innocent cartoon. It doesn't say anything about indoctrinating.
The tongue is somewhat.
It says that you're trans. What are you talking about?
But sexual. How the tongue is out like that? It's a little disturbing.
Ethan, come on, I'm doing a K-pop pose. You're just clutching at straws.
No, why is the tongue out? I find that a little provocative.
Ethan, it's a cartoon. You're just trying to make.
Well, I don't know because you're well.
Hey, listen, I jerked off to cartoons as a kid. I was a kid. I remember watching Yu Yu Hakusho. I'd jerk off to that shit, bro. There's been some big ass titties, dude. I remember Final Fantasy. I think it was which 11? Which one? 12? Which one's the one with Lulu? 10, 11? With the big boobie? What the fuck is happening? I'm getting my fucking shits pushed right now. You know what I'm talking about? That big boobie bitch. You know what I mean? Like that's real. Real recognizes real, by the way. I'm gonna fucking die. I'm gonna fucking explode my pants and cum everywhere. That's some normal shit, dude.
Well, no, I'm not trying to make a joke. I think this is a somewhat serious issue to resolve here because I'm being serious, Ollie, because let's at least be consistent. If we're going to accuse people of grooming kids, and which you have made a short-lived but somewhat profitable career of doing, then I think we need to, we need to get on top of this. I just don't think it's appropriate to be selling lunchboxes with a trans woman.
If that lunchbox had something inappropriate or sexual, that would be wrong. But this is an innocent cartoon of me doing a K-pop pose. There's nothing wrong with that particular picture. If it was inappropriate or in a sexual way, that would be completely wrong. And of course, I would never sell that. But that's an innocent drawing of a cartoon, Ethan.
Do you think it's appropriate for a drag queen, for kids to buy, let's say a kid's at a drag queen show. That's grooming. And let's say they are selling lunchboxes to the kids with a picture of a drag queen on it, doing a cute pose or whatever, right? Not sexual, but they're in drag. Do you think it's appropriate for a kid to carry that lunchbox?
But I think it's appropriate if the kids at a drag show that's in.
I think it would have been better if they asked, like, it can drag be non-sexual? Would be like the best next question to ask there. But I get what he's asking.
Inappropriate, because some drag shows are generally not inappropriate.
Okay,
a lot of them are becoming
okay, that's
sexualized.
interesting. So some drag shows are appropriate and some aren't.
Correct. It's about doing some.
Bro, you said, imagine if I got sponsored by Box Lunch. That might happen with the Rob and Dan channel if we get more popular. But what I really want to get sponsored by here, okay, is White Castle. That's what I want the sponsorship by, okay? They're going to make their own Papa Gut meal. My Papa Gut meal, 10 bacon cheeseburgers. No onions, no pickle. Definitely ketchup. Pulls it together. Medium Diet Coke. We'll say a large just to sell a little bit more money. But if you mention Papa Gut, you get the medium. You get the large Diet Coke for the price of a medium. Boom. What a meant to be wear. How's that? Papa Gut meal. Beautiful stuff. No fries. No onion rings or anything. Any of that cringe crap. Right? We just get the main meal. I don't really eat French fries anymore. You know, I'm trying to. It's not that it's healthy to go to any of these places, but you know, I try to stay away from the fries. Go away from the fries at least to make a better choice. Right? How about that?
No, correct. It's about if you're going to do anything in front of kids, it should be PC. It should not have anything sexual. But sadly, a lot of these shows are doing sexual things, so kids should not be there. If the merch is there and it's a show that's sexual, they shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, this is interesting. So you're saying it is okay.
I personally agree. So as parents, don't bring your kids there. Like that's one of the things. It's the parents' fault. It's not really the people's fault. It's the fucking parents' fault. Tell the parents not to do it anymore.
It's to go to drag shows.
I'm not saying that at all. I don't think they should in general, but I'm just saying
if they're not sexual, and I would assume it's not because it's for kids, right? I mean, if they're doing sexual stuff, I would consider that. Obviously, everyone would consider that inappropriate. Mm-hmm. But I believe you've just said drag shows are safe for kids. In fact, you would even be okay. Well, hold on. You even said you'd be okay with them carrying a drag show lunchbox.
No, look, I just don't think kids should be anywhere that is putting ideas into their head. You know, if a show is in a...
Right there. If it's putting ideas into your head, then your trans lunchbox is grooming, so...
And, you know, that's obviously better than it being a sexual show, but I still don't think kids should be exposed to gender ideology.
So then your drag lunchbox is grooming kids by your logic, so...
This lunchbox you're selling to kids.
That has nothing to do with any kind of ideology. It's a K-pop picture, so
it's a picture of you as a trans woman.
But you're in drag in the picture. You're trans.
I'm not in drag.
Well, you're trans. Sorry, you're right. You're not in drag. I misspoke. You're trans. You're a woman. You're expressing yourself as a woman on the box.
It's just a cartoon, Ethan. I don't know why you keep going on about it's a cartoon.
It's just a cartoon.
Wow.
I mean,
what a dumb piece of shit.
I feel like you're trying to downplay the significance of this, Ollie. I'm just afraid that some of the people that you associate with might consider this grooming by your own standard. I'm just looking out for you and your reputation.
It's just silly, Ethan. It's an innocent cartoon. If it was an inappropriate picture, that would be wrong.
Okay. What do you make of this picture?
But you just said that like anything that puts an idea in your head, because that's the reality. Like here's something I want to explain to you guys. You know, like Blair White, for instance. You know, this lovely woman, right? The existence of Blair White, even as a conservative woman, it just normalizes trans women to conservatives. All Blair White does is there's how many conservative people you think are looking at Blair and going, wow, like what a strong, beautiful trans woman. This person inspires me to live my authentic self. If Blair really wanted to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what's happening, bro. Like like Ollie doing that, that's not good. It's the point that I'm making here for their ideology. You're showing that kids that trans stuff can be fun and cute. Right? You have to put like a cigarette warning on the lunchbox. Warning, this is gonna groom you. It's true.
Are these kids in danger? Your thoughts?
Well, I haven't seen the video of that particular show, and it depends what book they're reading. If they're
they're just a trans person. I mean, excuse me, it's just a fucking person in drag reading one. It looks like, bro, this is like Rainbow Fish. That's all they're reading. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Rainbow Fish book. That's what that is. Rainbow Fish book for kids. It's literally called The Rainbow Fish. This is the book that they're reading. You could tell by zooming in on it. I think that the kids will be okay. It's just a fucking gay guy reading to kids. That's fine. Who gives a shit? That's all it is. Looks pretty chill. Yeah, who cares? Okay.
Drag queen is
it appears to be depicting some fish. It's a couple of fish in the ocean. It seems like
that's the rainbow fish.
The rainbow fish.
I guess I didn't need to investigate
the rainbow
that myself.
fish, Ollie.
Well, I think a lot of these books are pushing even subtle messages on gender ideology.
Fucking Rainbow Fish? The Rainbow Fish was made like fucking 20 years ago, bro. I was a kid when I read Rainbow Fish. What are you talking about? What? When did the Rainbow Fish come out? 1992. I think it's just about a fish who gives away their nice scales to people. Or something like that. It's messages in what? This guy's name is Dookie. Dookie Gobbler. This guy's name is Dookie Gobbler. Wow, that's funny. Anyway, let's get back to what we're talking about here. Fucking Dookie Gobbler, bro. I'm fucking dying. I can't even deal with it. Listen, the point that I'm trying to make here. I'm so immature. It is now that this book is being read by a fucking a gay person in a dress. It's now LGBTQ propaganda, like right on the spot. It's crazy.
Trying to tell kids you should be trans and become LGBT, and kids should make that decision on their own. So if that book is teaching them about transitioning or becoming a drag queen, that's inappropriate.
It's
and that's
the Rainbow Fish.
Yes, but I haven't read the book. I can't see what the book is. So based on that one picture, does that book contain subtle messaging that's trying to tell kids to change their gender when they shouldn't be thinking about things like that? And, in Florida, they've obviously banned books in the classroom that teach gender ideology. And there's a lot of books, kids' books. There's a book called The Gay ABCs, and that...
Kind of interesting. I mean, isn't that like... listen. I don't know what age a kid needs to be learning about gender ideology. I mean, you got to learn about it enough to be respectful of pronouns and shit. But like my thing is like, isn't that like a form of like almost book burning? Isn't that like some level of a suppression of freedom of speech? I guess not, because it's in a school, but I don't know. Because I don't know if I trust the way that they say, like, oh, they're trying to ban books that teach this ideology. Like, well, what does that mean? Does it mean that they just teach that some people exist? Because again, I know that there's that one inappropriate book that got into the library, and I don't agree with that. It was showing like fucking blowjobs and shit. But then also in that book, like as inappropriate as I thought it was, fundamentally it was just teaching kids about safe sex, and that's something kids needed to be taught. Now I don't know the degree they need to be taught. I don't think they need to be seeing whole assholes because it was like drawing pictures of buttholes and stuff. That's a little too much for me. But kids need to learn about safe sex because unfortunately kids are doing it, whether we like it or not. Like 14-year-olds are fucking each other, and it's gross. And what we should do is we should put kids on sex. We should put them all on puberty blockers until they're 18. This way, they won't get horny, because I think it's disgusting. But we have to teach them somehow about sex and doing it safely. Something has to happen. You know what I mean?
Pushes gender ideology for 2-year-olds. It's 2+, and I don't think that's appropriate for a kid that just should be reading kids' books that are completely innocent. They shouldn't even
What do you make of this? What do you make of this lunchbox, though?
Why do you need to go back to lunchbox?
Because it's got a picture of a trans woman on a kid's lunchbox.
Got a picture of a K-pop star on the lunchbox.
It's a
Who's
picture
the K-pop star? Who's the K-pop?
Come on,
it's
Ethan,
you, right?
It's me.
It's you. And this K-pop star is a trans woman, right?
I was trans at the time. The image doesn't necessarily depict any kind of gender.
So you're saying, did the photo of you? It's
not even a photo of me. It's literally a cartoon. I had an anime cartoon drawn of me.
Right.
So if there was a show with an animated trans woman on it, would you say that that's wrong? I mean, I wouldn't care. I'd jerk off to it. Okay, enough. But like, right? Isn't there like what's the show? There's like a cat girl. There's like some kind of gay guy cat girl in a show. I don't remember the show, but I was like, damn, I would fuck that thing. And then it turned out it was a guy, and I was like, pogger, like, YOLO. That's the word I was looking for. Fucking Japanese stuff's crazy.
Right.
Would you buy it?
Sorry?
Would you buy it for your kids?
I mean, I wouldn't, just because I don't want to support you financially. But theoretically, I don't think I'd have a problem with... No, I wouldn't have a problem with my children looking up to a trans person. Of course not. What would be wrong with that?
And even, look, I don't have a problem with trans people at all. I'm just saying that certain things, when it comes to gender identity, if trans...
Is it Hunter x Hunter? Maybe it is Hunter x Hunter. What the fuck? I just got some pants, bro. What the hell?
Genderism is being pushed on young kids in preschool or even elementary school when they shouldn't be thinking about that. I think it's wrong to expose them to that. I think
exposing them to
kids
trans
discover
people.
Who they are.
Exposing them to trans people, like this lunchbox is. Right.
You're really obsessed with that lunchbox.
Well,
You need to get one.
no, but I think it's a really important point that you're not, coming to terms with. We're exposing kids to a trans woman. Don't you think that's wrong?
Yeah,
Why
but
is it
I
still
love
on your website, at least,
It's come on, Ethan. I don't know what to say. It's a cartoon of a K-pop star,
right.
and it's very innocent. It's just like a little anime drawing. It's nothing. If I was doing something inappropriate, if I had, protect trans kids on there, that would have a message. That would have a loaded gender ideology message. But it literally says Ollie Squad with a cartoon of me doing the piece.
Is it from ReZero Cat Girl? Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about. It wasn't blue haired. The cat girl from ReZero is a boy. That's what I'm talking about. I know some anime. I'm hip with this is a boy. That's fucking wild, bro. That's fucking wild, dude. Holy shit. That's fucking nuts.
Sign. It's like super cute, super innocent. Just like most K-pop stars are like super cute, Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, aren't you making like the Higo face a little bit?
What, do you think I should make it more masculine?
No, the Higo face is like some kind of hentai thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I noticed. Do you think I should make it more masculine?
I have no idea.
That's when you cross your eyes and stick out your tongue?
Like that.
Oh, really? Well, my eyes are
You
wide
don't know
open.
about that?
My eyes are wide open. I
Hold
do
on,
watch
hold on,
some
hold
anime,
on,
but I
hold
don't
on.
know.
You don't know about the Higo face?
No.
I don't believe you. Come on.
No, I watch anime like I watch Attack of the Titans and
That's
stuff.
straight
but I'm
cat,
not
my
familiar with-
brother.
Attack of the Titans. Fucking send this guy to the electric chair. What the fuck did you just say, motherfucker? Attack of the Titans? Oh my god. Somebody get this guy. We got to get this guy out of here. It's enough. Enough is enough for now. Attack of the Titans, dude? What is this, the fucking Fraggles? Fraggle Rock. What the fuck? Holy shit.
This is it, and you can see the resemblance, right? Here's the Ahigo face.
Go on.
It's like a hentai reference.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but you see the resemblance, right?
Can you put them side by side?
Sure, yeah, I'd be happy to.
I mean, that's quite a cute drawing.
Right, but that's like a woman like orgasming is what that is.
Yeah. It's like,
Well,
Or like
Well, that's not
lustful.
what
It's like a lustful kind of sexual gratification.
Adrian, you're
face.
really clutching at straws.
Am
I'm
I?
literally like,
bro, there's an entire literally, if you look up at Higo, it's porn. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that is not a cute face. That is like you're jerking off today. Like, literally, you can look that up on Pornhub and you will find it. There's no reason I know that. That's not what I was insinuating. I wouldn't actually know that if you asked me. I'm just saying that you could and you might find it. I don't know if you'd find it. I wouldn't know. I've never looked it up before.
I've got my eyes open. I'm doing the peace sign, and
What
you're
is-
trying to dissect it and say, "There's honestly."
Right. It just seems to me that even as a trans person, you shouldn't be exposing kids to that. It seems like you're shoving gender ideology down kids' throats by selling them a lunchbox with a trans woman on it. You
Yeah.
don't
I
see
just
my
don't-
point at all? You don't get it?
No, I don't. If I would see your point completely. If, for instance, it had messaging on there, like some political, because I don't think kids should be exposed to politics either. Political or
Okay.
gender ideology message. If that was on there, that'd be different. If it was a sexually suggested image, but this is literally an innocent cartoon. I've got my eyes open. I'm doing the peace sign. You could not get innocent. What do I need to do, even to please people? Do I have to close my
Well, the issue is that you keep saying that like any representation of LGBTQ people to kids is bad for them, and then you sell a lunchbox, which is for kids.
eyes?
Well, I personally don't necessarily have a problem. What is your fascination with the eye wideness? I haven't said anything about that.
About what? Sorry.
You said, what do I have to close my eyes? I didn't know what that meant. You kept mentioning about like the eye wideness of how wide it is. I don't know why you keep bringing that up.
No, I'm just saying that. Look, in the picture, my eyes. It's not even me, by the way. It's a cartoon, but the eyes are very wide open,
Of you.
glistening.
It's
I'm just saying, what's wrong with having my eyes open? We're human beings. We have to have
I
our
don't
eyes
know
open.
why you're
Would it
talking
be
about
better if I
eyes
close
open.
my eyes? Would it be better if I close my eyes?
I don't know.
What the fuck is happening with this eyes thing?
What that means, Ollie. Here's
With
a reference
eyes
to
wide
popular
open. Oh my
culture with the
God.
Ahigo face. It's, like kind of an e-girl thing.
I believe that's Belle Delphine. I don't know the other ones. I was gonna be like, oh, I know all of them, and this way I could look like a kind of a pervert. But unless they're all the same person, are they? Bro, e-girls are weird, dude. They're wild. I swear to God, like they come from like slime. You know what I mean? Like they're fucking aliens that come from like fucking just like slime pits, and they just like come out of them. Bro, you know what anime is wild? I think it's called Bastard. It's on the anime show channel. It's fucking wild, bro. That shit is fucking bonkers, dude. You got these fucking like this ooze things melting some girl's clothes and shit. I was like, damn, that's fucking weird, you know?
You're probably aware of that.
Well, I'm not an e-girl, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, but you're on the internet. And
I do know anime and stuff. I don't know anything to do
know.
with that pose. Literally, I've got my mouth open like this. Peace. I always have my mouth open, like.
Mhm.
Me too. I'm looking
Sure.
for
Come on.
cum.
Let me see that again.
Cum.
Looks really natural when you do it.
Thanks.
Yes. Yes, girl. So are you? So the trans, but you identify as a male now. You're not trans. We're over that.
No, I'm like, well, basically, I got to a point where I was going to probably die from the surgery I was doing, and I was really.
Well, you don't need to keep getting surgeries to be trans. You can just keep doing your hormones and be like, hey, I've hit a good point here. But okay.
Mentally struggling, had a lot of mental health struggles based on a variety of issues, which I talk about in my book. From when I was being bullied very severely as a kid, I was always told I was like ugly, or I looked like a monster, or I was more feminine, or I had man boobs. So I just used to have all those things, and it left me with traumas. So it kind of messed up my head. And as an adult, I didn't deal with that in the way that I should have. I should have had therapy. I should have spoke to someone. Instead, it's almost like self-harming. So all this crazy surgery was me kind of monster, or I was more feminine, or I had man. As an adult, I didn't deal with that in the way that I should have. I should have had.
What sounds like is because you were relentlessly bullied for being trans or for being different, you developed some kind of a mental health issue. So don't you think that maybe we should teach kids that that's okay to be different, so that they don't develop mental health issues? Because by this logic that you developed all these issues with your image, what's being communicated to me, at least, is if you weren't bullied so much, you wouldn't have the problem of you thinking that you had gender dysphoria. Right? Doesn't that sound normal? That makes sense to everybody. So we shouldn't bully kids that are weird or different, or we think are weird or different, because then they might hurt themselves or develop mental health issues that would make them not happy. So if you just weren't bullied as a kid, from what you're telling me, or the way that I'm hearing this, at least, you wouldn't have gone through any type of surgeries or anything. You would have been happier. So maybe don't bully kids. Woo, hot take. Woo.
Therapy, I should have spoke to someone. Instead, it's almost like self-harming. So all this crazy surgery was me kind of lashing out at the bullies, and it was very, very destructive for me and for other people. So, I'm glad to be over that.
Do you think that people who are bullied are at a higher chance of becoming trans?
Yes, definitely. So I talk about this in my book. There's a lot.
So then you shouldn't be bullying people. They won't become by your logic. I don't know if that's true. It could be. I doubt it. But let's say it's a factor, your logic then is to stop bullying people for being trans or different. So do that. Don't bully trans people. I don't know, like hot take, I guess.
Studies. There was a study in Finland by the top transgender clinic that was basically transitioning a lot of kids, and they said I think it's around 45% of the kids had experienced severe bullying, so that led to their gender dysphoria.
That's not what that means. So let's just say what they're saying is true. I hate stupid people so much. It's just like it's just an annoying point that like I've talked about 1,000 times. Okay. There being an association with being trans and getting bullied is this guy's asking me weird thing, mystery quest or silver. There being an association with trans people and getting bullied, it doesn't mean that they're like bullying made them trans. It could mean that them being trans made them bullied. That's usually what's more likely. They were like young, they were different, and people bullied them for that. Little kids, maybe they were more they were somebody born as a boy and they were very feminine, so like more masculine or normal kids, I guess you'd say, or would bully them. So like the logic is stupid.
Identity, but there's also the other. No, I was just about to say as well, but there is also the flip side of that, where the kids are being bullied because of their identity, because maybe a boy is more feminine or a girl is more like a tomboy. Okay. So they're also being bullied for that. But in certain studies, the one in Finland at Tampere University, they found that there was a significant correlation between a kid being bullied and then the onset of their gender dysphoria.
No, they didn't. That's not what they found. They found a correlation between bullying and being trans. They don't make the broad assumption that the bullying made them trans. Like you're deciding that by like unintelligently misinterpreting the statistic. What are you talking about?
Dysphoria coming afterwards rather than before. But of course it works both ways.
Okay.
Let's see here. I have that theory you're citing in front of me.
So then let's just say you think that the bullying is making people trans, shouldn't you be more against people bullying people? Because like if the bullying makes you trans, then how are these trans people that you think are groomers making people trans? Are you saying that they're engaging in a form of bullying through their trans activism? It doesn't make sense. What you're saying makes no fucking sense.
Here, University, Finland, yeah.
Here it is. Let's read the conclusion. There's the abstract and everything. Let's see. The conclusion says gender identity, especially non-binary identity, is associated with both being bullied and perpetrating bullying, even when a range of variables including internal stress and involvement in bullying and the opposite role, are taken into account. This suggests that bullying during adolescence may serve as a mechanism of maintaining heteronormality, which I think what that means is that the bullying
is trying to maintain heteronormality. The bullying is just kids trying to maintain like traditional masculinity and whatever, which is bad.
Actually results in people rejecting their transness in favor of heteronormality. I think that's so it seems to be saying the opposite actually of what you've claimed it said. Do you see what I'm referring to? Heteronormality.
Yeah, no, I see that. I see that article. That, you know, if you actually read the full study, which
that's
I've read
the
the full
conclusion.
study, you can find it on the National Institute of Health.
Oh no, this is the study.
Yeah, that's the conclusion though. That's what they came to after doing all their information. So what else do you really need?
Yeah, this
Let me
is
have a look.
yeah. No, this is the this is the study. It's
fucking
the
idiot.
Dove.
Finland. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. And then this is the author's conclusion right there. I mean, that's pretty much that. This is the one you're talking about. Do you disagree?
Yes, but it's look. The study's also saying it's associated with being bullied and being the perpetrator. So it's basically saying
Yes,
that either
but the message. This is the last sentence.
What this says is that kids are bullying non-masculine kids in some kind of an effort to maintain masculinity, which means that they perceive those kids as too feminine in the first place, and they're bullying them to try to get them to preserve their masculinity. It's not as deep as that. It's really that like little kids are fucking assholes and they see somebody different and isolated, so they beat them up, and then kids won't be friends with them. Like kids are really dumb fucking animals. But you keep saying somehow that the bullying is making them trans when they're already exhibiting very feminine qualities. Maybe they're not trans yet, but they probably are, or maybe they're not. But either way, like, focus on the bullying, I guess, more than the other stuff, I would say. It's your birthday. Happy birthday. Woo.
And so let's read this together carefully. Mm-hmm. It suggests that bullying during adolescence may serve as a mechanism of maintaining heteronormality.
Yeah. I'm
So,
gonna come.
do we understand what that says?
No, I get what it's saying. It's basically saying that some of these kids that are being bullied will maintain their original identity because of the bullying. Correct. But the study also, if you read the full study, the study also speaks, there's a high correlation between, there's two different findings in the study. There's a finding that around 45% of the kids are bullied, and that causes the gender dysphoria. And there's also a part of the study which also says, like the conclusion is finding that some of these kids are bullied because of their gender dysphoria, and it makes it worse.
But this conclusion is everything they found, and what the first thing he said is just not in there.
It seems like if two outcomes are possible, then it doesn't seem that interesting. I wonder why you bring it up.
Well, no, read the full study. It also talks about the correlation between autism.
I mean, this is the author. They wrote the conclusion right here. This is their.
That's a small summary on.
Yes, that's the summary of the article. That's the point of they will find information and they will come to a conclusion. So
that's the author. That's the author. That's their conclusion.
Correct.
Right.
But if you read in the National
better
Institute
to draw a conclusion than the author of the study.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I've read the full study multiple times on the National Institute of Health.
Oh, why? Mm-hmm. Why did you read it? Did you really like it? Why would you read the study? I don't think that you did that. Why would you read it multiple times?
Do you think that if bullying prevents people from becoming, according to this, bullying prevents more kids from transitioning? Do you believe that we need more?
What? What does that mean? Transgender identity, especially non-binary, is associated with both being bullied and perpetuating bullying, even when a range of variables, including internal stress and development of bullying, in the opposite role are being taken into account. This suggests that bullying during adolescence may serve as a mechanism of maintaining. I don't think that suggests bullying is not making people trans. This suggests that the bullying itself is a mechanism of maintaining heteronormativity. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is successful in such, although maybe it is.
More bullying.
No, I'm an advocate against bullying. I think whoever gets bullied, it's so wrong. I've been bullied myself, and I'm an advocate.
But if
for trying to
bullying
stop
results in less
bullied.
transitioning, then that, according to what you're saying, is the best outcome.
I don't think that's what it says, but it's interesting.
No, I don't agree at all. No kid, even if a kid is feminine or a girl is a tomboy, they should not get bullied. No one should get bullied. They should be provided with support. But if somebody
like gender from a care,
wants to transition, I'm not against people transitioning. I just don't think it's right as a kid, because a lot of these kids are going through so many issues during that time. They are not in the right frame of mind to make an informed consent decision.
If a child is suicidal, do you believe that they should transition to save their life?
So there's a lot of clinics and doctors that use this argument. There's a clinic called Kaiser Permanente in California.
Yeah, I think that's because some kids are very depressed and they can't transition, you know? That's usually why they use the argument, because it's what they're observing.
Kaiser Permanente.
Yes, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, so basically they have used with multiple people that have since detransitioned, Chloe, Cole, and Layla. And
Yeah, that's sad, but like, what percentage of people detransit? I think that we should talk about and listen to more detransitioners. But what percentage of detransitioners, like how many detransitioners are there to people who didn't detransition? The number is very low. That doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it to make sure that we do correct, care. But you can't just say, see, detransitioners exist, so this is wrong what you're doing. It just means you need to get better at the diagnosis.
Another detransitioner, they basically told them your kids are going to commit suicide if you don't transition them.
Oh.
But what they said afterwards is they actually felt worse 6 months down the line after their transition because they've got hormones in their body, they've got puberty blockers, and they even had.
That's a different conversation. That's too much to have a conversation with fucking Ollie because he's too fucking stupid. Right. So here's what I'm hearing. Right. But there's a difference between. Okay. This is going to be too complicated. I got to get my mind, correctly. Let's say you're diagnosed with gender dysphoria, right? Let's say you're like 20, right? And it's like, I've been feeling this way since I've been 10, whatever. You get diagnosed. You get the diagnosis, start going through the treatment. And it's working. Let's say you might feel better in some ways, but then in other ways you feel worse because you're on hormones that alter your body. That would be the way that they feel worse. Of course, it's like side effects to a drug. It's the same thing as Ethan going on antidepressants and it's like affecting his sex drive. Like he feels worse in some ways, but better in other ways. You know what I mean? Like that's just kind of how treatment works. Like for instance, people who are very depressed and suicidal. Well, here's the thing: people who are very depressed to the point where they can't get out of bed, they'll go on treatments, and then after a while, they'll have the energy, and some of them take their own lives because they just have the energy to take their life. They're still happier than they were, but they're still depressed because it's not like an on-off switch; it's like a dimmer switch. This is a very complicated thing, but that doesn't mean that all these people are having a worse off. Some experiences are going to be worse. Like if you're going on like estrogen, your nipples are going to get fucking raw and tender. You know what I mean? Things are going to happen when you go on testosterone. You're going to grow hair. You're going to have like different interactions with different things. You're going to be angrier. So I don't think that he's accurately displaying whatever information that he's taken in. And so that's just what I'm assuming they're talking about, but they don't really know too much what the fuck they're saying.
And that the vast majority of people that transition don't regret it. I think it's like 95%, 99%. Are you aware of that stat?
You don't hear the cases of the detransitions.
Are you aware, Ollie, that 99% of kids that transition do not regret it?
No,
also,
I don't.
Also, just to be clear, that statistic is, I don't know if it's true or not. Let's say it's true. It probably is. I think that we still have to be like, make sure that time is going to pass and that number might change. Right, these are very short-term studies. Right, we haven't been doing these studies for super, super long. I'm hoping that it's true and that maintains. But as time goes on, things might change a little bit, and that's okay. But we would just adjust. You don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right? You make you just make changes based on the information that you're taking in. It's the same thing with like a vacuum. Your vacuum cleaner breaks. You're gonna throw it away, or you're gonna get the part fixed. I'll probably throw it away because I'm lazy. Right. So just because there's going to be negatives to transitioning for some people doesn't mean that the transitioning in general is a negative. All things need updates, right? That's how life kind of works. And as we grow, we learn more and more things, and we just get better at doing stuff. That's kind of how it works.
Statistic, I think it's wrong because these
from what authority do you disprove that statistic?
Well, look, these clinics make these studies. They don't even do follow-up studies. There's an example of a
Do you not trust studies? Because you just told me to read one.
Look, what I'm saying is the gender clinics make billions of dollars every year. Their studies are skewed and biased.
In a review.
Again, like this is a whole. I hate this argument because it's very dishonest. The argument that gender clinics make money, it's true. Of course, they probably make money from whatever sales or whatever hormones or whatever, I guess. But they also make money from grants. True. So does everything else. If you have an issue with a very large profit incentive for these places or these institutions, then that is a healthcare problem because that's happening everywhere. How many billions of dollars are made a year off of people with diabetes or heart disease or cancer or anything? Okay, just because I couldn't even. How much money does cancer make a year? $103 billion in 2019. Absolute number, total sales of cancer drugs increased from $52 billion in 2010 to $103 billion in 2019. Does that mean cancer doesn't exist? You'd probably say no. It probably does exist. But what I'm seeing here, if there's a massive increase, is one, maybe there's more people with cancer, or there's too much of a profit motive for cancer, and these drugs should be cheaper. So what is that? That's a healthcare problem. Oh, fuck. That's a healthcare problem. That is a problem where we need public healthcare in some capacity. I'm not against some form of private healthcare for people who can afford it, but we need public healthcare that can cover the basics, like getting cancer and dying, or gender affirming care if you need it. But this isn't a trans problem. This is a healthcare problem. Idiot. You know? Sorry. But seriously, it's annoying.
Of 27 studies involving almost 8,000 teens and adults who had transgender surgeries, mostly in Europe, U.S., and Canada, 1% on average expressed.
Maybe you should be cancer to make a living. You know, true.
Regret. For some, regret was temporary, but a small number went on to detransition. But that's 1%. That seems like a very small amount to be singularly focused on. And this is 27 studies, so this is a massive kind of conclusion, right? A scientific conclusion, a consensus, if you would.
Yes, but what I'm saying is there's a clinic, for instance, Tavistock Clinic, which was the main clinic in the UK. They were actually exposed. They were doing studies as well. They weren't bothering to check with the detransitioners. They did.
I think they talked about the Tavistock Clinic and that like it was hyperinflated, or they closed down for some other reason. Ethan talked about that clinic. That's why I know what he's talking about in a different video that I reviewed like 6 months ago.
Didn't bother to check with the detransition. They didn't check how the hormones were affecting them over a year.
I know what you're talking about. That English one for yeah. So that one, if I recall, I looked into that. I believe it was people say it was shut down. It was actually, wasn't it?
It's being shut down,
right? But
still open.
They're actually making a bigger one so they can serve more needs. So it's not really being shut down. Actually,
went to a tower.
Say the name again. What is it?
It's called Tavistock.
Tavistock. Yeah.
Tavistock.
So that one's actually being shut down this year because basically the National Health Service, which is basically looks after all the hospitals in the UK for the government, they actually said that there were a lot of ethical violations and stuff, and they also changed their policy based on what happened at that clinic via internal investigations. They found that many of these kids were being pushed to transition.
Okay, so let's say that's true. Isn't that a good thing? It's not a good thing that they're pushing them to change, but isn't this the government working as intended? Because here's what I'm hearing. If what they're saying is true, which it's doubtful, but let's say that's true. Hey, a clinic was providing trans affirming care incorrectly, so they did an internal investigation and found out that was a problem, so they shut the clinic down. Isn't that a good thing? I think. Right? It's not good that they were doing the bad thing in the first place, but it's a good thing that they are fixing the bad thing. So my point here is that the system is working as intended, and when there are problems, we're making sure that we do the right thing. So that's good that we're making sure that we're getting on top of that.
Without having checks on their mental health, and they're basically being pushed.
And that's not like the care's fault. That's like the doctor's fault. Yeah, sure.
Written fast track very quickly.
Do you think it's significant though that of the patients, of the actual people who transition, only 1% regret it? Do you? You're not acknowledging that.
No, I don't. I don't trust studies.
Why?
Even if you say
27 studies. Then why did you tell me to read this one, Ollie? You use studies when it's convenient for you, but you don't when it goes against your thesis. I don't understand your consistency with studies. Do we like them or no?
What I'm trying to say, Ethan, is the gender clinics are very, very powerful.
Do we? No, Ollie, do we like studies or not? All studies or no studies?
I like studies.
Oh, we do.
No, I like studies.
You do like studies.
But you have to always look at bias. The clinic in Finland was a transgender clinic that made the study. So they had different findings to many of the clinics in America that are saying there's a low detransition rate. But there are thousands of detransitioners out there. They're just not sharing their stories.
Okay, but what are you talking about? What clinic said that there was a high detransition rate? What is he talking about? What study is he referring to? Is yours...
because of fear of being attacked, and they get abuse every single day from trans activists. So there's thousands of kids out there there's 50,000 detransitioners on a Reddit subreddit forum speaking about detransitioning. But
there's not 50,000 detransitioners on a subreddit. There is a subreddit about detransitioners, and I guarantee the majority of the people are transphobic, looking for an excuse to hate trans people. Here's the reality: detransitioners do exist, and progressives don't talk about them, which is a problem, right? But at the same time, the only time anybody talks about them is conservatives who use those examples of detransitioning to say, see, trans people are bad. That's what's happening. I don't know what you're talking about. But there aren't 50,000 detransitioners in a fucking Reddit post. The overwhelming majority of those people are transphobic and looking for an excuse to not like trans people. What the fuck are you talking about?
They're scared to come out and talk about it because they're going to get attacked. So there's a lot of people hiding.
You seem to be in denial, Ollie, that the vast majority of these people, let's say there's a bias. Let's say instead of 1%.
I wish he would meet him at some of these other claims that he's making. Like, there's 50,000 people. No, there's not. You're wrong about that. You know? So I wish he would meet him at that. I understand he's trying to keep him on track about statistics, but I think like meet the situation where it is. You know, maybe you're not going to be able to debunk Ali or the people what they're saying to them, right? But if you could be like, no, there's not 50,000 people on a Reddit. Oh yes, or no, they're not. Most of the people are just not detransitioning. It's a Reddit with like private people. You know, I could get 50,000 of my followers, or he could even say, I get 50,000 of my followers right now to join that Reddit. Does that make them all detransitioners? Well, no, but it's like, okay, right? I wish you'd meet him there.
It's 10% regret it. And that's a huge deviation. So I'm giving you a lot of doubt here. If 10% only regret it, do you think that on whole of the 90% who don't regret it and who had what they consider life-changing...
I don't think it's because Ethan is lazy. Jesus Christ. I think it's just because maybe he didn't think about it. What the fuck?
Healthcare. Why would you seek to deny them life-changing healthcare? When they,
Ethan,
they say this saved my life.
Like, so I guess that other guy's study says that like, hey, it's 10% of people detransition. That's a pretty high number, I would say. So the solution would be like, oh, why are they? What are we doing wrong? Not let's throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, Ethan, children can't get tattoos. Children can't buy cigarettes or buy alcohol. Okay. So how on earth can they consent to doing something they don't even understand about? We have to look at many of these.
I mean, I would say that like I personally have never met a kid who killed themselves because they couldn't get a tattoo or cigarettes or what did you say, alcohol?
Alcohol. So, well, Ethan, children can't get tattoos. Children can't buy cigarettes or buy alcohol.
Yeah, but not for nothing. But they still do those things. I was drinking when I was like 14. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I would get drunk. Not a lot. I would go to. This is a joke, by the way. None of this is real. But I would go to family parties and I would drink there. And like the logic of this person that doesn't exist because this is a story was like you're better off drinking here, in a controlled sense, at a party than doing it with a bunch of fucking random people wherever you were. And now I don't really like alcohol at all. I don't drink it. Like I got it out of my system. Now do I think that everybody should do that? No, but the point is that kids are drinking and smoking cigarettes. I don't know what you're talking about. You know, my wife, we were talking about that. She used to smoke cigarettes when she was 14 years old. You know, not the parents aren't usually letting their kids do this, but it is like a thing that's happening. I'm just saying, like, kids aren't as like magically innocent as we think. I'm not saying that they should be able to consent to all this shit. I'm just saying that like we live in this like fantasy world where like kids aren't doing dumb shit and fucking around a lot. They do.
So how on earth can they consent to doing something they don't even understand about? We have to look at many of these kids. They don't understand. They don't think about the future. Like if a kid changes their body, they have gender reassignment surgery or take hormones, they might not be able to have a baby when they're older. They don't think about those things because they're kids. So the issue is just we shouldn't be doing this to kids. It should happen, you know, as an adult, they can make...
I think the argument is like, yeah, they might be negatives to transitioning, but the idea is that the positives of like having better mental health and being happy outweigh the negatives of potentially not being able to have a kid. So...
informed consent, but even with some of the parents agreeing
Ollie,
to it.
Do you know how many kids between the age of 6 and 17 went through irreversible surgery in the United States?
I know the number rises every year. Now it will be several thousand.
So the number of
the number rises every year. That's several thousand. That's not how this works. It's proportionality. So if something goes from 100 to 1,000. Right, like let's say here's a statistic: 1% of a thing is bad, but 99% is good. And let's say that 1% of that bad, it went from 100 to 1,000, right? But that good thing went from 1,000 to 10 trillion. You know what I mean? There's proportionality that's more important than the raw overall like numbers. Just to be clear,
patients of children between 6 and 17 who went through irreversible surgery in the United States. What was the years on that one?
3 years, 2019 through 2021.
So this is the most comprehensive data we have, and this comes straight from the government stats. It was 250 per year. Does that seem significant to you?
That's completely incorrect because there's a clinic in Oregon. It's in the thousands now. There's a clinic in Oregon that's done at least
the thousands. Is that significant? 1,000? I mean, we have 50 million children in the United States. Do you think 1,000 is statistically significant?
There's thousands, and this study probably only takes into account people on Medicaid or Medicare. There are also the parents of patients.
Well, you don't know that. You're just saying a thing. Again, it's about proportionality, but not about raw numbers.
That pay out of pocket. So
even if it's thousands, Ollie, let's say it's thousands. Is this significantly significant when we have 51 million children in the United States between ages 6 and 17?
Well, that part. Okay, right. They're just talking about getting irreversible care. They're not saying that it's a good or a bad thing. I guess. Okay.
It's significant even because it's growing every day. If you look,
I mean, that's what they're talking about, like how many people are getting irreversible care. That part doesn't matter. What matters is how many of those people were misdiagnosed. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to get irreversible care, if you don't want to, if as long as you don't want to reverse it, right? But that's really the issue. So this is kind of like a weird argument.
look at any chart or graph of kids being medically transitioned, it's now in the tens of thousands across the US. California has thousands alone. Florida, before Governor DeSantis banned, there's a clinic, Dr. Gallagher, who performs at least five surgeries on minors every month. So that's just one clinic.
Can you
so
cite
it's in
those
the
numbers? Is it possible to get a reference?
Yeah, I'd like to see that too.
Dr. Gallagher is a clinic in Florida, and she operates on minors.
Okay. And so what is wrong with the number going up? I mean, let's say it goes up from 1,000 to 2,000 in the whole United States. I mean, so obviously one would assume, right, Ollie, as people become more educated and aware of transgenderism, and we've seen the same thing with homosexuality, which of course you are a member of the LGBT community. In the 50s, as being gay became more acceptable, you saw the numbers significantly rising.
Okay, so I'm looking into this. Healthcare professionals who have been criticized for allegedly providing life-altering gender-affirming care surgeries, minors claim information about their services to services to youth are frequently misconstrued and misrepresented by right-wing media. But one doctor in Florida providing gender-affirming pediatric services, Dr. Simba? I don't know. Gallagher has decided not to mince words when it comes to what she offers to her minor patients. A recent article in the New York Times indicated Dr. Gallagher provides top surgeries or a procedure in which a child's breasts are removed to multiple trans youth around the age of 15 every month, despite it being a clear violation of health department guides when she practices. Okay, so let's say that this is true, because maybe it is. I'm going to put this in the description, as I always do. The problem with this is that this is bad, but she's violating the health services. She's violating what she's supposed to be doing, which means that she's a bad actor in a good system. She's performing surgeries she shouldn't be performing based on the department guidelines. So, like, she's the problem, not the actual system, right? She's a bad actor in a good system. She performed top surgery on 40 patients a month, and roughly 1 or 2 of them are under 18. Younger patients are usually at least 15, though she's operating on one 13-year-old. Yeah, that's terrible. That sounds really bad. But that's not the system. That is an individual in the system. So,
during that time, I'm sure you know that, right?
And yeah, I guess that's another point. There's a lot of there's a lot of different ages of consent in the United States, like anywhere from 16 to 18, or 16 to 17 or 18, right? So if their age of sexual consent is 16, which I think it needs to be raised, but then by that logic, like, yeah, I guess you can get surgeries, right? Because you're the age of consent, I suppose.
Yeah, of course, because it became more acceptable.
What is the difference between the hysteria that took place then about there was, on the right, that they're turning our kids gay? That turned out not to be true. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. So hold on to that. So now today, we see the same graph going up of trans kids getting surgery or gender-affirming care or whatever. So why is it that you today can draw a conclusion that was the same conclusion in the 50s that you disagree with, that trans kids are being influenced societal to become trans? It seems to be a glaring contradiction in logic.
It's not just random based on the fact that it's easier for people to come out these days or identify in different ways. It is a concerted push, Ethan. So there's now
That's what
over
they said
60...
about gay people.
I don't see an active push to try to make people trans anywhere. So,
Ethan, there's now over 60 pediatric gender clinics that have opened within the last 15 years across the US.
Yeah, that would be interesting if we increase the age of consent because of trans kids. That would be very funny. Because again, this is an issue. What sounds like part of the issue might be low age of consent. So maybe we should increase that. Maybe that's the real problem here. So interesting how there's so many problems that we have in our society.
Patrick super chatted $1.99. Hey, Papa got poop.
Thank you. Very, very nice. There are so many issues in our society, and it seems like we're only talking about them because there's such a financial incentive for for people to get transitioning for whatever medical institutions. Isn't that like on everything in our healthcare system? Oh yeah, that's true. I'm just saying, it seems like our primary problem is not trans people, but we only seem to care about this issue once trans people get involved.
They weren't there before, so they are profiting from this. They're opening clinics because they know they can profit. So when they push,
or they're opening clinics because there's a demand, and they need more clinics to satisfy the demand. Right?
Through popular culture or push transitioning via TikTok trends, they are profiting from that. So it benefits them if society and children are being confused and indoctrinated in schools or via social media because they can get more patients through their door.
So that's good, but let's focus on this issue that I want to nail down. They said that gay kids were being influenced to be gay. You disagree with that now, and you're one of the people that says kids are being influenced to become trans, and it's the same curve. How do you not? Why is that curve not just the result of it becoming more acceptable in society? It's the same curve, right? Same curve.
It's a huge curve.
It's interesting because I like this conversation. I appreciate what Ethan's doing here, but there are some ways where and the only way that you could educate yourself on these topics more is by talking about them more with different people. But there's so many ways in which Ethan is kind of far behind on some of his points. There's so many points. For instance, I brought up in this conversation that Ethan hasn't even thought about that would counter some of the obnoxious dumb garbage that this Ollie person is saying. For instance, the financial factor. He's kind of just not addressing some of those issues. And I think I don't know, it's probably because he doesn't really know how to. And I get it. But you'd think he'd be more prepared with a friend like Hassan. But I also don't know that Hassan necessarily knows what the fuck he's talking about either when it comes to trans issues. I guess I could just be wrong. But there's so many little things that are here that are just that are you could do better on that one. You could have done a little better on that one. It could have been a little better here, Have me on, Ethan. Let me be there as a fact checker. I'll just type to you. You know what I mean? I'll just phone a friend. I'll say, I have something to say, and then pop out. That's all we need to do here.
And it's really in the last 5 years since TikTok came about, we're seeing so many. There's about 2.2 billion.
What does it matter how they become aware of it? I'm telling you, it's the same curve.
What I'm trying to tell you,
I think that's a separate issue of potentially TikTok maybe glorifying a little bit of, I guess, being trans, but TikTok glorifies all mental health issues. So that's different. So there's probably a lot of kids who are I'm trans, but they're really not. But I don't. Again, this is a TikTok problem, right? This is a TikTok problem. This is a social media problem. This isn't a trans problem. This is an indoctrination for a trans person to be I'm a trans person. It's oh my God, all these kids, we would hope that those kids grow out of it. So we'll see. I'm assuming they will, because they don't actually have, they'll grow out of pretending that they have autism and whatever other bullshit they pretend to have, but that's a little bit of a different issue, no?
Is that there are influences now that didn't exist 10 years ago that are pushing kids.
Oh.
So, for instance, TikTok, there's about 2.2.
So TikTok is turning people trans, where back in the 50s, people said it was rock and roll music, it was movies, it was hippie movements. That wasn't accessible to the generation before them. I don't see the difference.
That's a fair point.
What I'm saying is that kids are being exposed to influences that they didn't have before.
Same in the 50s.
Kids are being on. Sorry?
The same in the 50s. The kids who were coming out as gay were also exposed to things that weren't accessible to generations before them.
Well, I don't agree with that. They didn't have phones back then. Kids are now being pushed.
Ollie just doesn't understand media fundamentally or influences. No. They couldn't be made to be gay because back then we didn't have TikTok. Okay, so the only way that you think that media invades people is TikTok. Okay, then this is definitely you have to agree that this is a TikTok problem. What the fuck are you talking about? No. Well, dude, this is wild. Ollie is a silly goose.
Trends and the AI algorithm recognizes a kid's vulnerabilities and they push videos.
Music, popular music.
Music.
Pop music pop music was something that was rock and roll was something that was new back then.
That's true. Ollie's getting cooked by a man that's half prepared. Damn, dude. Ethan is literally not the Ratatouille. You know what I mean? He's just and his Ratatouille, I guess, is Hassan or something. And he's the Ratatouille personally does not make a very good Ratatouille. I think that's the problem. Is he's not the right Ratatouille. He's the Ratatouille brother. He's being controlled by Ratatouille brother. Doesn't really know what the fuck he's talking about. But he kind of sees his brother doing. You know what I mean? He's just the Ratatouille brother. That's Hassan. Hassan is the Ratatouille brother. Okay.
And so
no, correct. And you could also argue that in the 80s, more people came out because music like George Michael was, and songs about freedom.
So
then,
why are you
concluding
concluding that TikTok is making people
bad,
trans? I don't understand the logic. You just contradicted yourself.
No. What I'm saying is, in the last 5 years, there is an increase in gender clinics opening because they are exploiting these children that are being pushed trends.
Or there's more trans people feeling comfortable coming out, and maybe more kids are confused and not necessarily trans. And to deal with that issue, they have to open more clinics. That would be like if I was saying that, hey, there's a lot more people with fucking cancer, so they open more cancer clinics to exploit those people. But well, maybe that's just there's more cancer, so they felt like, hey, let's get rid of the old. Can you fucking die, dude? I'm gonna shit my pants. Holy fuck! Why did this doing so much damage?
There's a lot of lobby groups, Ethan. The Human Rights Campaign is a massive lobby group. They're going around.
Ollie, you were trans before
Yeah, lobby groups are. Is that what you don't know? Okay.
TikTok.
I've struggled with gender dysphoria for all of my
Before
life.
TikTok.
Correct, but my identity struggles came about because I was using social media too much. And
But
I
Ollie,
started
you
to
were
see-
born in 1990. You're not that much
What the fuck is this
younger than
talking
me.
about?
When I grew up, there was no social media. I don't believe you probably had social media until you were in your 20s, well into your 20s.
Yeah, correct. And the reason I struggled with my identity was because of bullying in childhood. But then I only transitioned as an
But
adult.
bullying in
because
childhood,
surgery-
we established from the report that you told me to read that bullying in childhood results in less people transitioning.
No, it doesn't. Ethan, you're not reading the statistic correctly. They were saying that bully is a mechanism to try to maintain masculine or traditional masculinity. They're not saying that it is an effective measurement. So you're not really right there. What was found there is that the bullying is because people are trans, not the trans isn't. They aren't making people bullies. Ethan, no, what are you doing? Just having a little bit of a rough time. It's a little bit of a rough time, Ethan. You're struggling. You're struggling, my brother in Christ. What the fuck? You're struggling.
Again?
The study you sent me
Yeah.
about
the Finland study.
bullying, the
Did Ethan get any criticism on this? I'm wondering.
conclusion was that bullying results in less people transitioning. So you says it's a result of social media. Well, you didn't have social media. Then you says it
Ethan,
was a
I'm
result of
one person.
bullying. But this study you told me to read says bullying
Griffin
reduces
eggs.
the amount of people who transition. So how is it that you were trans before, outside of all of these influences that are turning people trans?
Well, firstly, I'm an individual, so I'm one person. So my experience is not reflective of every single person that becomes trans out there. But the thing is, I became trans as an adult because I really struggled with my identity throughout my whole life. And yes, I did get bullying. Every case is different as well. Some people are bullied because of their gender identity. Some people are not. So every single case is different. But the reason I became trans was, you follow my journey, the Korean stuff. That was me trying to find myself and trying to, fit in because I hated the way I
Well,
looked.
if your journey is a personal one, which I totally understand, then what gives you the right to project your personal experience onto others?
Well, I speak to detransitioners every day. I speak to parents. I speak to women.
So
and
don't
they
you,
are
that-
very
that-
Don't you think that maybe it would be effective if you didn't just speak to detransitioners then? If you're only speaking to detransitioners, aren't you going to get like a biased story about how bad? Because I would assume a lot of detransitioners hate transitioning because they got misdiagnosed, they got wronged by the system. But like that's talking to everybody that had a negative association with the thing. Don't you think you should talk to like everybody, maybe transitioners as well, like maybe a little bit of both, not just one?
that assumes a bias, Ollie. You're talking all day to detransitioners. We've also established, because we, I think, like studies, or I don't know if we decided, I think you said you like studies, because 27 of them made a consensus that 99% of people that transition don't regret it. So if you spend all day talking to the 1% that do regret it, don't you believe that underlies a bias?
Yeah, of course. Good point. Very good point.
Well, no, I don't believe it because I talk
Really?
to all sorts of people. I talk to parents that have trans kids, and they're trying to navigate through that. And the general consensus with
Okay.
everyone I speak to, because I'm not right wing or left wing. I'm
You're very right wing. Like you can pretend. It's just stop being a piss baby. You talk to the parents of kids transitioning. What about, did you talk to the kids? I'm confused. What did they say? Oh, they were probably like, oh, this is like, it sounded like what he said was that the parents are like, this is hard to navigate. I'm sure it is. That's probably tough for a parent to have a trans kid. It's tougher to be trans, of course, but so they're like, damn, like I've raised like a boy, let's say, and now they're a girl, and that's like frustrating to me. And if I had a trans kid, part of me would be like, did I do something wrong? I might not be a rational thought, but that's what I would feel. I'd be like, damn, what did I do wrong? What the hell? Then you got to deal with your kid getting bullied more, because that's probably going to happen. Then you got to feel, you got to deal with that. That's going to be another stressful aspect as being a parent of a trans kid. Like, there's a lot of frustrating. You got to be there for your kid ultimately. The point is to be there for your kids. But what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, what did they say? Like, it sounds like you just said that they're having trouble navigating it. No shit. No kidding. Okay.
just very much in the center. I'm just trying to help people using my platform to try and help people. You know, the general consensus is we shouldn't be doing this to kids, and there generally is a concerted push over the last 5 years to medically transition children. If kids want to experiment, if a girl wants to be a tomboy, you know, nobody has a problem with that. You know, if they want to become trans as adults, that's on them. But the issue that I talk about
isn't it interesting that, like, oh, if girls want to be tomboys, there's nobody has a problem with that. They used to. Conservative people used to hate that. And now they don't because they aren't allowed to. It's this interesting phenomenon where it's like you get backed into a corner and you can only say the thing that seems the most reasonable. So if conservatives are always talking about how, like, you know, this is what a real man is, this is what a real woman is. Now that's changed because, like, it's not a reasonable perspective anymore. So now they have to be like, yeah, you can be a tom girl, just don't be trans. You know what I mean? That's just kind of like a force. That's just where the society has gone to make something seem more or less reasonable.
Day. I talk with parents, I talk with all these detransitions. It's when this happens to kids. That's the issue I'm speaking about.
Right,
it's
but that's
not
so
about
rare.
people being trans.
Let me ask you another question, just to pivot a little bit.
Pivot a little bit, damn.
I'm one of the people that would say, Ollie London, I don't want to diagnose you. I'm not a psychiatrist, but there is some crazy.
It's called TOBS, Terminally Online Behavior Syndrome. Okay, Ollie has TOBS. Tabarellos. That's what's going on here. Oh, there's a guy over here with a quest. Oh, fuck. Give me my epic quest, you pussy ass bitch.
Craving for attention, clearly, right? Good or bad. I mean, you said about, like, Korean, you said your pronouns were Korean, you know, you said you were going to get your penis size reduced so that you could look more, you could be a more authentic Korean. I mean, these are not serious things. You seem to be a provocateur. Is it possible that you are participating in this right-wing grift because, one, it's making you a lot of money, and two, it's getting you a lot of attention? Is that possible?
And also, you're able to condition kids to be trans through selling a lunchbox with a trans woman on it, remember? You do that, Ollie. Right?
That you actually don't care and that your beliefs are empty. Is that possible?
No, absolutely not. So when I struggled with my identity for years, I generally was struggling and I was lashing out.
Personally, I don't identify as Korean. I identify as molten core. That's an epic wow joke.
Bullies, and the more I would get bullied online by YouTubers and people on TikTok, the more I would act crazy because I was trying to feel validated and loved. And you know, it was very unhealthy.
The conservative movement has offered you quite an open hand. They're very glad to be using you as a mouthpiece against trans people. So it must feel good to be being accepted from somebody, even if it is at the detriment of many people who are at risk, trans people. It must feel nice to have people supporting you.
No, it's nothing to do with that at all. You know, I could have easily continued to do
that. Is an interesting actual concept, though. The idea of, like, when Ollie was getting bullied, they were getting bullied by everybody, progressives, conservatives, and now conservatives are like, yeah, let's get Ollie on board. And now they're like, oh my God, somebody finally likes me now. What do I have to say? It's possible, you know, considering their history of being trans or thinking they're trans. Which is interesting to me because they said they have gender dysphoria even though they're not transitioning now, which is totally possible. Some treatments for some people, depending on who you are, is to not transition. But it's just interesting to me because then wouldn't you understand that it exists, but maybe that there's more than one pathway? I don't know.
K-pop, I could have focused on TikTok, which, you know, I used to really enjoy doing TikTok. I'm not the best singer. I like to make fun, entertaining videos. You know, I could have stuck with that. In actual fact, when I detransitioned, I lost so many brand deals. I lost all my invites to New York Fashion Week. I was front row every
Yeah, but
season.
now you're on Tucker Carlson. I mean, that's the biggest show in the world, or it was. Rest in peace to the GOAT.
Yeah, he was the original GOAT. But no, it's nothing to do with that. No.
So you say it's not possible that you are just doing this for attention. If we go back, here's a recording of you saying that
What brand deals did Ollie have when they were fake whatever? What the fuck? I don't even know that. Is that true, or do you think they're lying?
You're using the BLM movement for attention and for cameos. Here, listen.
Millions. So it's basically every time I do a music video, it's like, if it's $1 million, it's £1,000. So, you know, if I just keep releasing music videos, that's like enough. And then also because I've been a lot on Twitter, there's been so many people talking about me on Twitter because I'm supporting the Black Lives Matter and protests and stuff. So I had 200,000 views on the video. So because of that as well, I'm getting a lot of requests. So it's just, you know, I'm just staying relevant in the news, on TV and stuff, because, you know, the more exposure I have, you know, if I'm trending on Twitter or whatever on TV, then the more cameos I get. So yeah, just.
So here you say you're supporting BLM to stay relevant and because it gets you more cameos. Have you been getting more cameos since you went right wing?
Well, firstly, that audio was from a number of years ago. It was edited deceptively by somebody that was completely uncredible. And
well, what were you saying there then? Can you just contextualize it for us?
It's basically
your voice. Desperate for attention.
It's your voice, correct?
It's my voice, but it was edited deceptively.
It's AI.
So what's the deception?
So I'm not doing any of this. What I'm doing now is to try and help people. Previously, Ethan, I'll admit
What's
it.
the
Previously, I had
deception,
some
Ollie?
very
You told me
unhealthy
it's
behavior.
deceptive. I'm open to hearing you out. How is it deceptive?
I'm explaining. So, previously I had unhealthy behavior where I was generally like thinking, oh, how many likes can I get? How many views can I get?
Oh, so then you're saying that the audio is true.
Because I was in a really crazy mental health place. And, the more surgery I would get, I would feel worse about myself. So I would try and be validated via online views and things. But in fact,
well, clearly that's not true. That the more surgery you get, the worse that you would feel because you kept getting surgery. It's just an unhealthy addiction for you getting those surgeries. So that's just not true the way you're saying. There's a reason you kept getting them. They made you feel better. They just didn't like solve whatever core problem there was with that you're ugly or something. I don't know what the issue is with you. But that's a different thing.
Unlike
talking
now.
to BLM, actually, no, I'm not doing it now. If I wanted to, Ethan,
which is
if
why
I
you're on
wanted
the
to,
show.
no, if I wanted to get attention and stuff, I would stick to doing TikToks. I would stick to doing my K-pop music videos.
You're getting a lot more attention right now. I mean, you're getting a lot of attention right now. In fact, you wrote a whole damn book about it, Gender Madness.
Well, what I'm doing now is because I've actually come to a realization that I have had some very unhealthy behaviors in the past, and I'm trying to remedy that. Because I can't sleep at night when I think, have I done something bad? Have I been a bad influence? So I'm actually trying to remedy that and devote my time to
I hate to tell you, if
activism.
that's what you're concerned about, you're going to feel really bad when your next phase comes around and you realize that
It's
you're
not
the mouthpiece for really hateful people.
Ethan, it's not a phase, and I'm not a mouthpiece for anyone. I'm literally just trying to speak up about issues that I have finally woken up to see what's going on in the world.
It seems to me, Ollie, that if we look at all of your different iterations of your personality, the one consistent thing is a need for attention.
Oh, fair. Okay.
Well, you could say that about Trisha Paytas, who was your best friend and you used to do it.
Well, he will say that about Trisha Paytas. What a dog shit argument. You could say that about Trisha Paytas. Oh, I would. Absolutely. She's 100% driven by attention. I think that Ollie just wanted to get Trisha in here as like a fuck you because I guess he thought it would be like an epic own. But like, yes, that's what Trisha does. By the way, the queen needs to come back, okay? Who better to replace Tucker Carlson than Trisha Paytas? Literally best one. But yeah, I would say this about Trisha, but she's a meme. I think enough times passed that she can be reformed, okay? It's time for her to come back. All right? That's what it comes to come down to.
Oh, I do say that. I mean, yeah, I would say that about Trisha Paytas, sure. Are you like Trisha Paytas?
Identities, but she had a wake-up call, and then she realized that, she could be an influence to others, and she's really a positive girl. She's doing amazing things at the moment. And I had a wake-up call.
Trisha was a chicken nugget, I believe. Do you empathize with that, Ollie, as a former trans person?
Ethan, I'm vegetarian, so I wouldn't empathize with her.
So you're saying you're like, yeah, and congratulations on that. We support that. Ollie, do you believe you're like Trisha Paytas?
No, not at all. I'm not comparing myself to her. I'm just saying that she had a lot of identity struggles. She had some unhealthy behaviors. I had some.
Trisha Paytas, like that is like like identity struggles. Like I think that's one of the problems of being like an online person is that you can become completely influenced by like the online narrative and people yelling at you, and it's something that can be very distressing. But like that this doesn't support your argument. Trisha Paytas. So
healthy behaviors. I struggled, but I'm remedying that now. I'm working hard every day to try and be a better person, to try and help people, and that's what I'm focused on. So people can call me what they want. I'm not a mouthpiece for anyone. I'm literally trying to help.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's pivot. This came about.
I like this. Ethan's like, let's pivot. Like usually in like the debate world, pivoting is a bad thing. Like I'm gonna pivot from this as a way to usually get away from some kind of criticism. But he keeps saying it like that, as if it's just like, yeah, let's just pivot. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, but
when you found God, right? You and you can fill in the blanks here. You were confused. You were a transgender woman. You were selling kids lunchboxes depicting a trans woman on it. That's pretty low by your own definition. And then you were walking around and you found God. You entered a church and then you realized, hey, this is a cool vibe, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, before that, I was starting to go to therapy. So basically, I lost a lot of my.
Uh-oh. You started to go to therapy? Wouldn't you be in therapy for the entire time if you actually had gender dysphoria?
Conrad Corball super chatted $4.99. I am not a mouthpiece. I am a piece of mouth.
I feel that, brother. Did Ali just admit that they never had gender dysphoria? Or am I tripping?
Walking around and you found God. You entered a church and then you realized, hey, this is a cool vibe, maybe.
Well, no, actually, before that, I was starting to go to therapy. So basically, I lost a lot of my friends. People thought I was really like crazy. And I was very mentally unwell with all of these different crazy identities that I struggled with. So I actually started therapy first. And I started going to sessions twice a week. And then they actually...
Don't you need to have therapy to get a gender dysphoria diagnosis? So this person never had gender dysphoria and they're lying. You started to go to therapy and it made you better? That means that you never went to therapy and you need to go to therapy to get a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, which you claim you have. So you've just admitted that you never had gender dysphoria. Incredible stuff, guys. This is at moment 150:36, where this person, Ali, admits they never had gender dysphoria ever, and it was always a grift. What other way am I meant to interpret this? So okay.
Told me, you need to speak about this. You need to find a community that's accepting, non-judgmental, and kind.
So hold on. Your therapist told you that you're not trans?
No, my therapist didn't tell me I wasn't trans, but they said if I'm having issues and struggling with who I am, perhaps I should find a community that's very welcoming and might make me feel like I can belong. Take some time off social media. So they didn't tell me not to be trans. It's nothing to do with that. So they literally told me to try and find myself.
So you took a break off social media, and then you took your time to find God and find your new self.
I stopped spending hours and hours a day on TikTok and YouTube, which was messing up my mind. And I actually left my phone at home. I would go to therapy sessions, and then I started going to church. And it made me realize, there's more to life than just being online or whatever. I need to actually make a difference in this world. And I've spoken to so many people that are concerned at the direction the world's going in. And, if I can try and...
Yeah, I'm such a surprise. Everybody is. They just complain about the wrong things. Their biggest issues are like fucking poverty and healthcare, not trans people. Nobody gives a shit. It's not a real problem. People are super worried about everything going on because there's too much information out there. You have the phone at your fingertips. You can see every horror going on in the entire world at any moment. Of course, you're going to think that the world is fucking collapsing in on itself.
Help parents and help women and stuff and speak up for people. Then I can feel good.
I want to show you this clip from an interview from Piers Morgan. Okay.
Lots of pictures here of you as a woman. So how long ago was that? Was that quite recently?
That was actually at London Fashion Week. So that was literally a month ago. So kind of a drastic change.
So you went from
kind of bad though. Not bad, you know what I mean? Like I would have hit that, I'm just saying, dude, I got that dog in me.
A month, you went from trans woman at Fashion Week, a month later to being on Piers Morgan denouncing the trans movement. When you said get off, take your time and talk and figure out who you are, that all happened within a month.
No, actually, since I originally transitioned, I felt great for a couple of months, and then I really started to question it. I started to think...
Well, you don't actually have gender dysphoria, so you never transitioned. It was all grift, so you're lying. I mean, you just admitted that you went to a therapist, and they said that this was all bullshit. Okay, you would have went to a therapist to get the original diagnosis. So you don't have gender dysphoria.
Okay, I can even do more surgery to make myself physically become a transgender woman, or I can take a step back. So I was having a lot of thoughts of regret, but it was too late at that point. I'd already done facial feminization. I'd already changed myself. I was very confused. So I'd been having those thoughts for a number of months. And then within a month from that particular picture being taken, I actually detransitioned.
So tell me about finding God.
But you never transitioned.
$4.99. Diagnosing yourself is self-care.
True.
Giving yourself therapy and saying nothing wrong here.
That's exactly the truth. Guys, self-diagnose, okay? Self-diagnose and then go on the dark web and find a medication to help your diagnosis. That's the only way that you can operate. You have to do that. I'm going to increase the speed of the video.
Tell me about when you were in the church and you had like an awakening.
Well, I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of loved ones because they thought my behavior was very unhealthy. And, it was a now or never moment. I could have continued down a very destructive path, destructive for myself and people around me, and destructive for, people that see me online. I think I was, not a good role model, and I deeply regret that. So
were you trying to be a role model? I find that interesting.
No, well, at the time in my delusion, I thought I was a role model for people that liked K-pop and wanted to be a K-pop star. So then I started going to church to try and take some time out to think about my life and think, what is the next step for me? And then, after spending some time going to church sessions and sermons, it made me realize, just try to find acceptance with who I am and stop doing all this craziness and try to get back to the real me. And that's the most important.
Well, if you'd gone to a therapist in the first place, they would have not. I mean, you don't have gender dysphoria. This is the problem that's getting me, is that this person admits that they don't have gender dysphoria. They're a fucking liar.
I heard you mention the real you being a British man.
Thank you for the money, by the way,
if
Conrad.
You talk to other people, I think they might say the real them. And as I think you would agree, people are born gay. They don't choose to be gay. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. Okay. So then why?
And I agree, and I believe that some people generally feel trans since they're born. I do believe that.
So God made them that way.
All trans people that are trans now felt it from when they were born, when they were very young, at least.
Right. So God would have made them that way.
Sure.
I just believe that some people are born as trans, but my issue is kids being indoctrinated to transition when they didn't think about that before. So however you're born, that's the way you feel, then that's okay. But I don't believe in people that wouldn't think about these things being indoctrinated to change.
Because you said you want, because when you're on these shows, you kind of make a point about being like, I'm going back and I'm being true to myself, implying almost that like this trans thing is just some kind of silly, psychosis you had. But you're saying now, being born trans is actually a state that God creates people in.
I don't understand the argument that you're going with.
Some people are born trans, some people are born gay.
Does God make people trans?
I'm not saying anything on that subject.
Why?
I'm just saying that some people feel, everybody feels different. Everybody feels different.
Wait, why are you not willing to say that God makes people trans?
What's the point of this
I'm just saying that people are born in different ways. They feel.
I don't think that there's anything productive about this line of questioning.
Some people might be born intersex. Some people are born gay.
Well, you talk about God going back to how God or Jesus intended me. So I feel like this is an interesting point to resolve, because this is something that you bring up in your interviews. God makes people trans. I find that to be.
I never said God made people trans. I never said God didn't make people trans.
Does God make people gay? Does God make people gay?
I'm just saying that people are born in different ways.
Because you said you were born gay. And so
I was born a man. And then
maybe what Ethan's trying to get the conservative movement. That might be what is going on here. Trying to put him in a position where he has to take a firm stance on God and making people gay.
As a teenager, I became gay. So it didn't happen from birth, but I struggled with I was very
well, you don't usually okay, it's not really how it works, right? Like, I became gay when I was a teenager. Yeah, when you started having like feelings for other people, that's when you would realize that you were gay. Like as a kid, you don't really realize it because you don't necessarily have like crushes and stuff. Well, you might have crushes as a kid, but it's not really fleshed out. And then as you get older, especially going through puberty, and you get like more sexual desire, that's where things change.
And I struggle with my identity as a kid.
Is that your choice or God's choice?
There's a lot of influences that influence people in life.
God is all powerful, right?
No, perhaps I wouldn't have turned out the way I did if I wasn't bullied, or perhaps
is God all powerful?
Yeah, God is very powerful. Yes, absolutely.
All powerful.
But
is God all powerful?
God is all powerful, but there are.
So then He made you gay and trans people trans.
No, there are.
Why would God all powerful make someone so confused?
He's saying if Ali thinks trans people don't exist or that they just feel trans. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, maybe that's true.
Was that they wanted to be trans? Well, actually, logically, it doesn't even make sense. If God is all powerful and He creates a being, and then this being lives through their lives and then says, "Oh, I want to transition," God made them that way. If God is all powerful, it's all part of His design. God wants people to be trans.
Well, there are societal, environmental.
God created society.
Yes, correct. But I'm just saying there's a lot of human factors that influence.
God created humans.
You know what's interesting with this conversation? I kind of want to give a little insight here. Is that you can kind of relate this to being gay and trans in some capacity, not fully, but just kind of follow me down this line of logic. Conservatives don't think it's good to be gay; they think it's bad. And I've talked to conservatives, and this is the general consensus: is that God made some people gay as a test. He made people gay as a test. God gives His strongest warriors His hardest, toughest battles, right? So He created homosexuality as a test for you to be a good person. So the idea is that it's okay to have the thoughts, but you're not allowed to act on them. You can still be a good Christian, and that's the general consensus now. But then an interesting question comes up: if God explicitly made people gay as a test, then why did He make animals gay? If animals exist to just be our food and our sustenance. And then you have no answer, right? What's your answer? Oh, well, He didn't care. Like He was like, yeah, it's fine if animals are gay, but not people. But it doesn't make sense. If being gay, it was actively created by God as a test. Why is He testing animals? They're literally, according to the Bible, they exist for us. So then He kind of starts to break down like, oh, none of this makes sense. Oh, wait, I don't know how to answer that. It's because God didn't make people gay as a test. It's because if God's real and He makes things, He just does. He's like, that's cool. Gays are cool. Biologically, it seems like gay people are much more likely to adopt and spend money on their nieces and nephews. So maybe God made gay people as support structures to help people raise their kids that aren't necessarily biologically their own. So how about that?
If people are, yes, I know that, but if people are exposed to gender ideology,
God created gender ideology.
What I'm saying is a lot of these people would not have felt this way when they're born, but they're being pushed by society.
God created society
to think that they're going to transition.
God created society and transitioning as an operation. I mean, just where am I logically wrong? I don't see any logical conclusion that doesn't come to the idea that God made people trans.
I never said God made anyone trans. I just said that society and the environment around people influence people.
He's all powerful, right? You said He's all powerful?
Yes, God is all powerful, but also humans have influences on other humans.
But He made humans.
But this isn't going to be with that.
It's not, is it? Okay, let's go on. Do you believe
Yeah,
that
it's
the
a
Bible?
little bit of a weird point that that he was making there. I didn't really understand too much the line he was going down.
Is against transgenderism, or what's your thought on that as a
As what?
Humans have influences on
Conrad
other humans.
Corball super chatted $9.99.
Thank you, brother. It's $20 so
God
far
makes
this year.
people trans.
Yeah.
Also, the gay lions were actually a female lion and male lion who both looked male. So also trans animals.
Ah, makes sense. I think God made trans people so I could jerk off to them. I think that's what they did. That's what God did. I think God knew that I would be a little bored jerking off to just girls. So God made trans men and women, you know? Was that transphobic? Did I do a transphobia? Let's move on.
but he made humans.
So
But this isn't going to be with that.
It's not, is it? Okay, let's go on. Do you believe that the Bible is against transgenderism, or what's your thought on that as a
Thoughts.
I guess a newborn Christian?
Egon, thought.
Well, the Bible was written a long time ago, and there are things in the Bible, such as in the Old Testament, that aren't relevant to today's society. We know that.
That doesn't make any sense. None of that makes any sense. I don't like it when people say that. God is supposed to be the all-knowing, all-powerful being. How did he put things in a book that is supposedly a direct translation of him that has any historical context? Why would he say that things like slavery is okay if it's not okay? That means that morality isn't universal according to God. Morality is subjective according to God. I constantly see conservatives say, if you don't have a God, how do you know what's good and wrong? I don't know, because God said slavery was good and I don't. No, that's different. Things change. Why? Why would they change? Was God a toddler when he made us? I don't really understand. He's just like, fuck it, I don't care. Own people, I don't care. Did he just not care? Is it not a bad thing? Does it matter? It just doesn't make any sense. How does it change? How does the Bible change? How do these things change? How do things become okay and not okay according to a Bible that, as a God that is supposed to be omnipresent and completely powerful and completely moral and completely positive? It doesn't make sense to me. It's fucking bonkers. I understand that God didn't write the Bible, its interpretation, but that's not an own for me, for what I'm saying. That just means that all I have to say is somebody misinterpreted the Bible. And that's what I think for power. But people will point to the Bible as if it's a fucking fact or a pinpoint of morality and truth. But if it's out of context that the Bible said that slavery was okay, then how is it not out of context that God said that fucking gay and trans people shouldn't be fucking around? I don't think it explicitly says anything about trans people. But you misinterpreted it. God doesn't think slavery is okay. Blah blah blah. Well, what about gay stuff? Oh no, he thinks that's bad. Why? Why? What's the difference? Don't understand. Why are you? It doesn't make any sense.
So we have to adapt what was written 2,000 years ago to the modern day. But I'm not one for policing how adults live their lives. But I think transgenderism wasn't in the Bible because there weren't trans people visible back then. Of course.
Bro,
look, I've even got this in my book. There was a Roman emperor that was trans. He used to dress as a woman. So we know there's instances, but I'm just saying in the Bible.
Did society influence him? Did society influence the emperor to be trans?
Well,
Emperor's New Groove, goated.
Well, hold on, you wrote about it in your book. God dang, man.
Yes, but so there were some Roman scholars that were around at the time, and taken from their writings, he used to dress as a woman, he used to act like a woman, and his wife would have to call him ma'am.
Oh wow, so I guess trans people have existed forever. We keep saying that they haven't, but it just sounds like they have. That's confusing. What do you say about that, liberal?
Now, I wasn't around back then, so I don't know the exact details, but he thought he was a woman. So, maybe he could have been born like that. Some people are born like that.
Oh, so then trans people have always existed? Wait, what happened? There's a trans person in the Bible? Don't conservatives say that trans women don't exist? I'm confused now.
And they generally think that they're in the wrong body, so.
You don't have an opinion on if the Bible supports transgenderism or not? Or homosexuality even?
No, the Bible was written a long time ago.
Yeah, but surely, why use the Bible as a guide for anything in your life?
I wish I could ride
so long ago. I don't understand that point.
Where are you going, bitch?
Ethan, because there's many teachings in the Bible that are very, very positive, about love and acceptance and kindness, and trying to help humanity. It was written a long time ago, so like I said, the Old Testament...
There's also a story about this, sisters raping their dad.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
What the fuck?
Okay.
What the hell? What the fuck is that? Is that real? What the fuck? I've never heard that before. What?
I like your optimism. So
I'm saying the Old Testament...
we're not doing the Old Testament. Okay, cool. So we don't believe... Okay. I heard you, when you're on these shows, I noticed you talk a lot about this specific story of Jesus that inspired you, how he helped the lepers when nobody else would, and that you, at the time...
Bro, I hate leopards. When I go to fucking Disney, the Animal Kingdom, scare the fuck out of me, dude.
When you found Jesus, you felt like the leper. You like that? That's a nice story.
Well, I thought it was a good analogy because I felt like for many years I was rejected by society. I was treated like an outcast, just like the leper. So I thought it was a good analogy to me. Actually.
I agree. It is a really good analogy. What other Bible stories do you like?
So there's the tale of the lost sheep in Luke, the parable of the lost sheep, where a sheep goes missing, from a flock of 100, and the shepherd decides should he stay with the flock or should he go and help the sheep, and he actually goes into the wilderness to help the sheep because he realizes that every sheep is one of God's children, so he needs to help them and be responsible for them.
What? The sheep are children of God? I'm fucking confused, bro.
Which verse was that? I want to read that one.
It's in Luke and Matthew.
Luke and Matthew?
I know what Ethan's doing. He's trying to find out, like, oh, do you actually give a shit about the Bible? It seems like this guy does have some Bible quotes ready.
Do you know the number?
I can't give you the exact chapter, but you can look it up.
Is there any other Bible stories you like? I'm looking for good recommendations.
Yeah, there's also when Jesus met a Roman officer, and this Roman officer had a lot of power. Like instead of abusing that power like many Roman officers.
Oh, Conrad, you give me too much money today, brother.
The Bible said I specifically am correct and Chad, and that you am wrong and smelly and can't speak and are a virgin even after having sex.
I heard
Conrad
that too.
is right, chapter 12, verse 4.
Incredible stuff. Why would it be called Conrad is right? It would be called Conrad, chapter 12, verse 4. You know, the fact that you're right would be in the scripture, but they wouldn't name the scripture about how you're right. Right? They have like Ezekiel and all this other stuff. Come on, bro. Now I know you're lying. I almost believed you until you said that the chapter was Conrad is right. You fucked up, dude. Dude, thank you so much for the money, though. That's like $40 today. You don't have to keep giving me one. That's fucking wild, brother.
He was actually kind to his servants. He had servants that were captured from battles, and they were working in his house, but he treated them the same he treated everyone else. So that's another great analogy. That,
he treated disgusting.
Do you know the verse on that one so I can reference it?
I can't quote it off the top of my head.
I don't know where that one is.
But there's a lot of verses in the Bible, there's a lot of chapters, but I can tell you specific stories that I like.
Okay. I was just testing you, Ollie. You know what I mean?
I know.
I was just trying to test you. You know, I was trying to do a fast one on you.
Yeah, give me one of those Old Testaments.
Yeah, but I want to ask, we're talking about protecting kids. It all comes down to protecting kids, right? I mean, this is the thesis I've heard you explain. So as a Catholic, what do you think poses a greater threat? Drag shows or clergy members?
Well, actually, there's a lot of scandals and very bad things that have happened with the clergy. And, I'm against all forms of abuse. So there's a lot that the Catholic Church has done in the past. There was even a cardinal that I believe he died earlier this year, an Australian cardinal that was accused of some horrific things. And there's a lot of that going on as well. So that needs to be addressed. And I will call that out as well as calling out drag shows that are.
So why don't you call that out as much or at all, except for when Ethan asked you? Because nobody's doing anything about it. People are starting to get sued. So now, like, the Vatican's like, oh, fuck. But, okay.
Sexualizing kids because all forms of
sorry, it was only $29. That's 30, not 40. Oh, okay. But it was you only gave me $29.97. Okay. Well, you know what? I still appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Abuse, whether it's in a church, whether it's in a religious organization, or whatever is wrong.
If you had kids, would you feel more comfortable leaving them at a drag story time, or with a clergy member?
If I had kids, I would actually be with them all the time. I wouldn't leave them anywhere.
You would never leave them.
You just you would just never. They're probably going to be a little too dependent on you. You're going to raise a baby, or what I mean, you're going to obviously raise a baby, but you're going to raise your child to be very dependent of you. It's not a good thing.
No, because as a parent,
hypothetically, you don't have to do it. I'm just talking hypothetically. Would you feel more comfortable leaving them with a clergyman, a member of the Catholic Church, or at the Bible, the drag queen story time hour?
Again, neither. I wouldn't want to leave kids.
It's just a theoretical. It's just theoretical.
I mean, honestly, I'd say probably neither as well, because I don't know. Bro, are you fucking kidding me? The chicken's running away. Oh, okay, sorry. It's an escort quest. So I'm a little angry. I don't know. Honestly, probably the drag place, dude. Honestly, I don't know, dude. Depends on what the event is. I wouldn't really want to leave my kid alone one-on-one with anybody. So if it was like a sermon, I think they'd be okay. My kids are going to be ugly. Nobody's going to want to molest them, so it's not really a big deal. So that's the positive. My kids are going to be too ugly to get molested. So
radical.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying, even if it was leaving a kid.
Right, but you have to choose one. Which one do you trust more?
Well, I wouldn't leave my kid anyway. Like, I wouldn't leave a kid, and I think parents have a duty to
protect
but
just theoretically, which one would you choose?
Damn, he's running that Patricia Paytas defense, where it's like, oh, Ethan, you're a bad dad because you let your kid, because you leave your kid with like whatever, the babysitters or whatever.
I'm not going to answer that because I wouldn't choose either.
You wouldn't. Okay, let's put it this way. There's a dude named Barry. He's got kids, and he goes, I have no choice. I have to leave my kids either with the clergyman or at the drag show. I don't have a choice. Something crazy's happening. They're right next to each other. He says, where do I leave my kids? Where do you think Barry should leave his kids?
Why isn't he just saying with the clergyman? I don't really understand like this refusal to answer. All he has to do is say, like, with a clergyman, 100%. You know what I mean? Like, that's all you have to say. Like, and then, why? You know what I mean? That's it. Just say that. Why is this even a debate? The fact that this is the debate means that this guy is very apprehensive about clergymen.
Again, I wouldn't want to leave kids anywhere.
But Barry doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have a choice. He's in this horrible
But Ethan,
predicament.
I'm not married. I can't answer that
Well,
question.
he's asking you for advice. Quick, Ollie, where should I put my kids?
You put me on the spot. You know, I wouldn't, as an adult, like,
This should be like this should be like a really easy answer for anybody. You know what I mean? Like if you're religious, you would just be like, yeah, with the clergyman. This suggests like, so either I don't understand the not answering the question. This doesn't make sense to me. I'm fucking confused.
I would say
Ollie,
Barry,
as a Catholic, I find it very concerning that you are hesitant to even answer that question.
Yeah, if you're a Catholic and you think that fucking trans people are groomers or whatever, or drag people are groomers, then why isn't this this should be a fucking no-brainer? Like, this is wild, dude. This is actually kind of wild.
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter whether it's a Catholic church, a drag show, or even an after-school club where it's, you know, the teachers aren't present. I wouldn't leave the kid anyway.
What? Why? If you said, I would say yes to the after-school club. Like that one, I'm like, yeah, after-school club, 100%. I have no reservations about that one. It's a club at school. They'd probably be all right.
The kid at some weekend activity, like a sports activity, I think the parents should always be there.
Okay. You think that the parents should always be at an after-school club? Why would it also have no teachers, by the way? That's weird. What kind of a club is this? Probably anime club, because there's fucking smelly weirdos. Well, I don't get it.
It's not a question of a church versus, you know, whatever. It's a question of just, in general, parents should always be with their kids.
But that's not reasonable. Parents,
it's like at school too. Like they should never bring your kid to a school. You literally need to not always be with your kids, or you're going to have little baby shit fucks that are going to be too dependent to you. You need to, especially as your kids get older, leave them other places. You need to generate independence. Like, what's your logic here? It doesn't make any sense. That's called coddling your children, which I don't get it.
Can't we be with their kids? I mean, that's
no, of course, it's not always reasonable. But I'm just saying, in an ideal scenario, you know, because look, there are cases that happen, many cases that don't happen. But I'm just saying, you've always got to be careful because there are people out there.
Well, let's assume that you're a good Christian and you say I'd leave them with the Catholic Church. We've talked about the number of kids who are doing irreversible transition.
I don't think you have to go this far. Okay, sorry, I'm fucking babbling. This was a weird thing. I thought that Ethan was just asking this question to lock Ollie and see what he had to say. It makes sense that he has he's prepared if Ollie says with the Catholic Church. My thing is like, why pretend? Why go down like a list of like, oh, this is what I want him to say. I'm gonna, you know, why not just attack and be like, bro, if you're so Christian and you think that fucking gay people are groomers, why aren't you saying like, oh yeah, I'd be more comfortable leaving with the church? It's weird that you're not answering the question like that. It actually is very concerning.
In America, it's very, very small. We're talking like 250 a year by my estimate. And that's based on government data. I know you dispute it. You know, there's a recent report that came out in France, and the reason I bring this one up is just because it's the most recent and comprehensive one. It's quite disturbing. This came out, I believe, in 2021, called the Independent Commission on Sexual Abuse in the Church. It was a huge government commission to look at this openly and honestly and try to figure out what's going on. 2,900 and 3,200 clergy members were involved in sexual abuse of minors during that period in France. Okay. It's estimated that they abused around 330,000 kids.
Really?
Now, if you do a percentage of that, and this is really kind of surprising to me, and tell me what you think. Assuming there are around 15,000 to 20,000 clergy members in France at any given time, the percentage of clergymen involved in abuse of minors would be 15 to 20%.
That's pretty high. I don't know if do you think that's true? That seems a little too high. You think they're abusing that many kids? Is it sexual abuse? What do they mean by abuse?
Now, if you do a percentage of 2,900 and 3,200 clergy members were involved in sexual abuse of minors during that period in France.
Oh, sexual abuse.
Commission to...
That's why. I don't know. That's a lot. I would just not believe that, but maybe that's true.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrifying.
Clergymen involved in abuse of minors would be 15 to 20%.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrifying. And also, there's in Ireland as well, there was a lot of abuse that was covered up. And no, it doesn't matter.
Seems like that affects more kids.
That is equally wrong.
Logically, it seems like religion is worse for kids than gay dudes in dresses. So
whoever exposes kids, it doesn't matter whether it's a church or not.
Raping a kid is equally as wrong as going to a drag show?
Look, it's equally wrong if someone abuses a kid. So that's what I'm saying here. So if a kid is being abused...
Is there any history of a child being abused at a drag show?
When drag shows are sexually explicit...
Is that the same as raping them?
That is also child abuse. I'm just saying, if a drag queen performs a sexually explicit act in front of kids, that is abuse.
If we're worried about the kid...
no, it's not. That's like it depends on what like if they're dancing provocatively, that's not abuse. I think it's inappropriate. Not everything is fucking abuse. We're talking about the difference of like systematically raping kids, because that's what happens. You have to understand something when it comes to like these religious or organized religion. Excuse me, Jesus Christ. When it comes to organized religion, you have to understand that you have an entire system set up that, first of all, makes it so that the majority of the religious people can't have sex, which is it's kind of an issue, right? They're completely sexually repressed. Then it also poses the idea that they are the only connection to God, and that you have to appease those individuals. They are the direct hand and voice of God. These are what these members are, these priests. And then everything that you say between each other is confidential between you, God, and the priest, and that creates a huge issue of kids getting abused with all those structures. Was that the intention of it? Probably not. But that's what's happening, right? That's not good. I haven't seen a single situation where it's like, oh, let's bring the trans person, let's bring the kids to like a fucking like isolate them with the trans person. That's just not happening. It's always like, oh, it's a drag show. I think it's inappropriate if it's sexual, but like, is that the same? If we're being honest with ourselves, guys, it's not the same. I don't think it is. It doesn't seem like it's the same. So
you're a member of an organization, which by my estimate, which again, it's just an estimate, but 15 to 20% of the clergy members are sexual predators. Why is it that you're focused on the drag shows and not the Catholic Church, when per capita and the volume is way more in the Catholic Church?
True.
Well, the specific organisation Gays Against Groomers is focused solely on the issue of indoctrinating children, exposing them to sex. If it was called
right, but why isn't there any outreach from conservatives complaining about like religious institutions if kids are being molested in religious institutions at much higher rates than kids being like harmed at drag shows?
Catholics Against Groomers, that would be focused on that issue. But it's a specific issue. Not every organisation can focus on every issue, but their job is to expose a specific issue within a specific group. And granted, like you said,
we need gays against boomers. That's what we need. This fucking boomer needs to get the hell out of here with this dumb shit, bro.
In France, there was in Ireland some horrific cases, and it's the job of the Pope and the Catholic Church to vigorously investigate that, because it's
and they don't. They haven't been. That's why it's been happening. Why do you think this has been happening? Because the Pope is like, whatever, I don't give a fuck, until they're being forced to give a fuck. That is the problem. Yeah.
Asking for any person, right? Whether a clergy member or not, to abuse a child is absolutely wrong, and it should be investigated to the full. And every single victim
it just seems to me a little disingenuous when you're going to point. Let's say you've got the whole hotel, a whole building, it's on fire, but but in the backyard there's like a doghouse that's on fire. There's no dog in it, by the way. It's just a small structure, and you're telling the fire department, we need to put out the doghouse fire. Don't worry about the fucking massive apartment building that's on fire. Let's put out the doghouse. To me, that seems like you're focused on the wrong thing. What's the point of focusing on the doghouse when the whole building is on fire, right?
Well, no, I mean, I talk up on my Twitter about all forms of abuse. If there's somebody that abuses a kid, if there's a news story, I do share on that. So, but I'm just saying the specific organisation Gays Against Groomers focuses on a specific subject. But you're right, all forms of abuse are incredibly wrong, and they should also get light shed on them, 100%.
Are you interested in firearm deaths of kids? Because that's the leading death, actually, of kids in America today.
Yeah, that's absolutely horrific. What we see
kids 1 to 19 or 17.
Day with schools being shut up, it's absolutely horrifying.
Right, but somehow the drag show.
Children to be, even.
I like how he just kind of like references a Jon Stewart statistic and just doesn't even commit to it. He's like, yeah, I've just gone a bit too. Like commit to that. I know Jon Stewart came up with it. It's an excellent point. So if there's like all these firearm deaths, like how come you're like, what do you propose to do about that? Does he have an answer to that question? I'd like to know, bruh.
We're on the same page.
I just don't understand why the drag show is more pertinent, because you're doing a tour, right? You're doing all the right wings. You even wrote a book, for Pete's sake, called Gender Madness. Why is this topic so important when we're talking about protecting kids, and there's just these incredibly more pertinent issues? Firearm deaths, the leading cause of death in kids, and you're talking about an organization.
Poverty, child poverty, lack of access to healthcare. These are real issues. Regular poverty,
With 15 to 20% of sexual predators, by my estimate. I just don't understand the focus on the drag show. Don't you think that the conservative movement is overly focused on transgender issues?
Yes.
Well, I mean, you've just highlighted there are so many different issues in the world. And, I'm trying to focus on one specific issue that we have seen a rise in the last few years, a very shocking rise,
Right, but it's that's not a real issue, though, right? Like, there's massively other bigger issues. And it's not like one person in the conservative movement is like, this is what I want to talk about. It's like every conservative. This is all they got, at least the mainstream conservatives and politicians. This is all they'll talk about. They don't give a fuck about any of the other problems.
But equally, the issue of kids in schools, that is horrific. Every kid should be protected and safe going to a school. Just like if a kid is at a church, they should be protected. No child should be getting abused. But, I'm specifically focused on one subject right now because, I've struggled with gender ideology. I've seen the trend. This is my area.
It's like the
of
whole
knowledge.
right-wing apparatus is focused on that. Isn't that odd? I mean, it just seems odd that the entire right-wing apparatus is focused on trans issues. Do you find that odd? Why are they all so focused on trans issues?
Well, I mean, they talk about a lot of other issues as well, but what's happening at the moment is
What other issue? There's no other issues. That's what? Which one? Push them on that hard as fuck.
Right. They talk about a lot of issues, but I think we can all agree that
No, they don't. Just say no. They never. When? What other issue they talk about? It's fucking like the biggest thing from like conservatives right now is Mr. Beast because Chris Tyson is fucking trans. Like, what other issue? What it comes to? I'm talking about like political too. Like, what are they talking about when it comes to like fucking inflation? No, nothing. They don't talk about shit. It's always no solution, nothing. Gay people are bad. Trans people are bad. We got to stop them. What up?
That's kind of the most pertinent for them, right? Even in polls, even in polls, people say the trans issues is the most important to them of conservatives. Why is that?
Well, I mean, correct, because it is a very big subject right now. Because we're seeing, every day these news stories of children with horrific stories at gender clinics. We're seeing,
you can see stories every day of anything. This is how the world works. We have like a massive media farm that can show you everything. It's just being sensationalized, and there's no other issue. This is an obsession from conservatives right now. It's all it is.
Drag queens, not all drag queens, like I said, but we're seeing drag shows where they're doing very sexually explicit things, and it's become a recent phenomenon in the last few years, and it's rising every day. So the reason conservatives speak up is because it's a rising issue. They're trying to counter it before it gets even more out of hand, because we're seeing.
Hey, what about the poverty thing? Could they maybe counter like poverty or healthcare or something? Like, what other issue? Do you think those issues are a little more important? And how come they're not tackling the kids getting raped in church thing? How come that doesn't seem to be like a big deal to them? That seems almost like they're, don't give a shit about what's actually going on.
Very sad things. The Nashville police still haven't released the manifesto, but when Audrey Hale initially shut up that school, they said that the person's gender ideology may have played a role. They believe there was.
That's silly.
Maybe. Who cares? What about the 99.99999% of them that were like, oh, we did it because we don't like white people, or we don't like immigration. We don't like that there's too many fucking Mexicans here that are killing us. Like, what about that? Those people who are saying wild shit like that. How come that's not a big deal? Nobody's dealing with like the racism, but now one trans person, and it's horrible what they did. But they shoot up the school, and it's like, see, it's getting out of hand. What about everybody else shooting up schools? Why don't you care about that? Why is it only when it's a fucking trans kid does something, all of a sudden that's an indicator of like an issue with trans people? But when like fucking all these mass shootings are being done because of some like kind of weird white supremacy angle, no, we just don't give a shit. We still deny the existence of the objective truth of systemic racism because this is like conservatives. Yeah, systemic racism doesn't exist. But okay, why do you think that there's an issue with trans people? There's one trans shooter. It's wrong, but like, what are you fucking just gargling cum? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Because I mean, a lot of have I mentioned that you're selling a lunchbox with a trans woman on it?
Okay. I don't think you mentioned it, Ethan. No, I don't think you said it at all, actually.
Okay, so how do you if I haven't mentioned it, how do you justify this?
I've already gone through it.
Oh, we have talked about it. Okay. I'm just curious. Let me look at the photos. I mean, this is definitely for kids. It's pretty small. It can't even fit like a little bread.
I mean, I get what he's doing, but like now we've kind of moved on from that. So now it's just kind of annoying that he keeps going back to it. Dude, he's like he got the W set up for him, and he's slowly just like taking the L. He should have ended this conversation earlier.
Look, I mean, these blueberries look monsters next to that. That's certainly for kids, right? Yeah, it's too small for an adult. What's that?
No, it's for anyone that likes K-pop.
For anyone that likes K-pop.
Oh, you mean losers?
But grown-ups? I mean, my God, what are they eating for lunch? 5 blueberries?
No, I would buy that because it's cute. I've been growing up like that.
Wait, you would buy a lunchbox with a trans woman on it? Why would you do that?
It's a K-pop. It's an image of a K-pop. I would buy it because it's cute. I like K-pop stuff. I love Korean culture. It's a cute K-pop lunchbox. But clearly, you're not going to be buying it.
Well, just because I don't want to support you financially, like I said.
Thanks.
Have you seen Bella Delphine's new merch? Interestingly, it looks quite similar to what you're selling.
Okay.
That's obviously you've just.
Oh wait! How dare you accuse me of that? Excuse me, I'll have you know that's defamation.
Kind of obvious because it says Elite Squad.
Do you think the New Testament is child appropriate?
Yeah, there's a great teachings in the Bible that is all about kindness and
Roman 1:26-27. For this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions. For their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And the men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another. Men committing shameless acts with men and receiving in themselves the due penalty for their error. Why is it that you feel entitled to be gay? When it clearly states
like I said,
that
Ethan, like I said, sorry, like I said earlier, this book was written, a long time ago where ideologies were different.
Ollie, come on, we can't play that game where you pick and choose the ones you like. That's silly.
You can't interpret every single line.
Well, isn't Ethan Jewish, and don't Jewish people follow like the Old Testament, right? So wouldn't this also be somewhat? I know that he's talking about the New Testament now, but the Old Testament was like worse. God was a real piece of shit back then. So wouldn't that be worse? This is all a criticism for his own beliefs, this chat, no?
And take it as gospel. You have to choose the bits that are relevant to modern society and that are relevant to...
But what's the point of doing the whole God's word thing if you're just going to pick the ones you like? I thought God's word was infallible. You can't be like, yo, God, I love you and you're infallible and all, but this one, it's a little outdated. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Even just like with other textbooks from religions like the Quran, people interpret it differently.
Timothy 1:9 through 1:10 says, understanding this, the law is not laid down for the just, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and sinners, for the unholy and profane, and for those who strike their father and mothers, for murderers, the sexually immoral, men who practice homosexuality, enslavers, liars, perjurers, and whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine. What about Corinthians 6:9? Or do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who practice homosexuality, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. There's a lot of lines that speak against homosexuality, but not a lot of lines that speak against transgender. So why is it that transgender, you should be more concerned about the fact that you are a homosexual? That seems to be a great sin.
Well, again, like I told you, you don't have to interpret every single thing from the Bible.
There's like a lot of anti-gay lines.
See, this is written in a time society.
Okay, let me ask you this then.
So you can't interpret every single word, but you can choose parts of the Bible that are relevant to you and the modern society and learn from them, like kindness, which is a very important message.
Do you think it's kind to tell a suicidal child that they can't transition?
Okay.
Did he bail, or is that us?
Uh-oh.
Is that us?
Checking. I don't think he bailed.
A homosexual? Do we have internet?
Yes.
Are we live?
I hope so. He's still in the Zoom.
But are we? I mean, our internet works, right? Yeah.
What the fuck is happening?
He just disconnected.
Oh, so he's gone. Was he?
Oh, he doesn't follow the religion. I thought that he did.
I'm back,
oh, you're back. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi's gone, but I do have to go soon, Ethan. Because
let me ask you this. I understand. Thank you for spending so much time with us.
You're welcome.
You say you learn to be kind in the Bible. Do you believe it's kind to tell a child that they can't transition?
No, but I think adults have a responsibility to help that child's mental health support. So whether that's therapy sessions,
if a child
well, yeah, but if it's determined that the positive mental health support is affirming their gender identity, would you do that?
If a child is suicidal, do you believe it's okay for them to transition?
Well, the problem with what you're saying is that's the argument that many gender clinics use to coerce parents to transition their kids. But
that's not like really coercion if it's true, right? Like, I don't know if it's always going to be death, but like negative mental health outcomes happens when people don't transition, right? And they have gender dysphoria. So what the fuck are you talking about? That's not like a coercion to be like, yeah, this is a thing that exists. I don't understand.
You actually have to treat the real issues, which is maybe the kid is suffering from depression, or they have struggles with other mental...
Or maybe they have gender dysphoria, which is causing their depression. Or maybe they don't. This is why we need to make sure we accurately diagnose.
Real issue. No, but this is a real issue. Kids are suicidal because of their gender dysphoria. I mean, that's a real issue.
But Ethan, what I'm trying to say is if you put a vulnerable kid that's already struggling with a mental health on very high doses of hormones or puberty blockers...
Well, no.
That is
that's after they decide. That's after they decide. This kid is suicidal. The only way to save their life, as you hear from a lot of people, is to help them transition. What is wrong with that?
No, correct. You hear that a lot, but...
Has it ever happened? Has a child transitioning ever saved a child's life?
Well, you need to address the mental health issues. If a kid is
has it ever saved a child's life?
But that would be one of the mental health issues, would be gender dysphoria. Why does he keep saying it like that's okay?
Transitioning?
Yeah.
Yes, of course there will be cases where...
So if it saved even one child's life, then where do you get off preventing this from happening? You say one child's all that matters. If you can admit to me that a child transitioning saved their life, even one of them, why would you support a movement that outlaws it?
Well, if it was just one, that would be bad.
Legislation that makes it illegal. Why is that?
Because firstly, these are kids, they cannot consent to this. They do not understand the long-term consequences. But you don't look at what happens later down the line. You can 6 years down the line.
Yeah, we got to stick on this point. You said that transitioning has saved a child's life. Let's forget about all the other static. Let's forget about all the other static. Why is it that you would want to outlaw a medical procedure that saved a child's life? That's not kind, is it?
No, you have to support the kid's mental health, but you cannot put them on hormones.
Do you believe that it should be illegal? Do you believe that it should be illegal for kids to transition?
I believe for medical transitions, it should be 18 plus, yes.
Even if the kid is going to kill himself, as you admitted, it saved the child's life. You said that. So you believe this kid should kill themselves rather than transition?
Absolutely not. Don't try to put words in my mouth.
I'm not trying to put any words in your mouth. I'm just trying to reconcile. You are saying, on one hand, that transitioning saved the kid's life, and also saying that transitioning shouldn't be allowed until they're 18 plus. So this child has no recourse other than to kill themselves. in this hypothetical situation we've created.
In this hypothetical situation, instead of that, actually take the kids to somewhere that's a safe place where they can be surrounded by therapists.
Right, they do that, but again, I don't want to focus on the static because this is a real situation. And let's say, even if it's just one,
kind of losing me with this point. I get it, but like I don't, you know. Okay, whatever.
Kid.
Going with it.
Again, let's stay focused here, Ollie. One kid saved his life. You're telling that kid you cannot get that procedure. That's correct?
I'm saying that kids can't consent to this. Kids need better mental health support, so they should be.
Well, kids can consent. They just can't consent to adult sex, right? But kids can consent to other kids. And then it's a conversation about like, well, to what degree? Like, you know, generally speaking, you shouldn't be able to get surgeries, I don't think, until you're at age of consent, which is 16 in some states. So if you can, you know, hey, fuck it, right? Raise your age of consent then if you don't want them to have sex or if you don't want them to get surgery. But social transitioning, who gives a shit? Then it's down to the puberty blockers. I don't know. I mean, if the data is saying that this is a good thing that helps kids figure out what they want to do, then like, cool. I don't know how many of them. I mean, I'm just not the medical institution with all the knowledge. That's the problem. I find it hard to believe that we'd have an entire robust medical institution that would centralize around helping people have better mental health outcomes, and it's all just some magical lie. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, what's the goof? Like, unless you believe that the government's trying to make people trans to weaken men or something like that. But that doesn't make any sense, because why would our government want to hurt our own population in a way that would make us weaker, so we would lose our hold on the world economic power and forces that be? It doesn't make any sense to me. You have to get like really conspiratorial. Conspiratorial? Is that even a word? You have to be really ingrained into this conspiracy theory idea to think that this is all done intentionally in some weird way.
We can focus on
18 plus. You're saying this kid cannot get the procedure that saved his life. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that 18 plus for all procedures on kids, because kids cannot consent, so they need mental health support instead.
Well, right. So the kid would kill himself.
Mental health support.
No, you give the kid.
That's part of mental health support, though, right? Transitioning in some capacity. No.
Then why did you say that it saves kids' lives, Ollie? Don't you understand? You're not making sense.
I'm saying that there will be some kids that may feel better and feel like their life is saved.
No. You agreed with me, Ollie, just a few minutes ago that transitioning has saved kids' lives.
Oh, like anything in life, it can save lives, but also a lot of people.
Like anything in life, what does that mean?
A lot of people will become suicidal later down the line because their body is completely messed up. There, so many different issues with their health that they're not being informed about. So it's
99% don't regret it.
No, I'm just saying that it's informed consent. Kids can't consent. If
kids can't consent to anything. What are we doing? We're not allowing them to. Kids can't consent to go to church. Kids can't consent to go to school. Kids can't consent to anything. We as parents make the best decision we can for the welfare of the kid. Don't you agree? I mean, this whole idea of consent is kind of moot when you consider all the things kids do in their lives every day.
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, it's like a little kid that wants to be a dinosaur. Do you suddenly give him a surgery?
Do you think that one?
I mean, little. Bro, this guy's just transphobic. This is a little kid wants to be a dinosaur. I've never seen a kid that's like wants to be a dinosaur so bad that they kill themselves. There's a difference between wanting to be a fucking dinosaur and wanting to like transition in some capacity. Also, again, these are kids that are older. Usually, they're not really having these manifestations until they're like older, like more in the adult age range, or like more in like the maybe 12 to 14. That's not really just I want to be a dinosaur. Although, in that one movie, Don't Lose Your Dinosaur, Dale. Xenogenders. Yeah, that's not real. There's no like widespread, large expressed phenomenon of kids wanting to be fucking dinosaurs, bro. I'm sure they might say I want to be a dinosaur, but they're not killing themselves to be a dinosaur. So it's a little different. I think I want to be a dinosaur.
Wanting to be a dinosaur is comparable to gender dysphoria, which is a known medical condition.
I'm saying that some kids.
You said it's like kids wanting to be dinosaurs, Ollie. I don't understand the comparison.
Well, no, it is. It's like some kids change their mind about certain things. They're not mature enough to make these decisions. So.
Yeah, right. But that's why you have to have like a persistent issue for like 6 months. This isn't like, I want to be a dinosaur today and I'm going to kill myself if I don't do it. It's like much deeper than that.
Do you think wanting to be a dinosaur is comparable to being trans?
I'm saying if a 10-year-old kid dresses up as a dinosaur every day, they tell their dad they're a Tyrannosaurus.
Has that happened? Can you cite that happening?
You've been speaking about theoretical things. I'm speaking.
Right, but this theoretical thing doesn't make any sense at all. So.
Well, no. Well, we're talking about theoretical.
That's true. Trisha Paytas was one step away from identifying as a dino nugget. Yeah, dinosaur chicken nugget. True.
Theoretical situations, but they are happening in the real world. There are kids whose lives are being saved because, and this is the small amount of kids who undergo it, very small amount, that do it under doctors' supervision and panels and stuff, that it's saving their lives. This is happening, okay? People are not as far as I know, maybe you can correct me, saying I'm a dinosaur. I need to transition into a dinosaur.
I'm a fucking dinosaur,
No,
Mom.
I'm saying, yeah, the kids
I'm
want
gonna
different things they
come.
don't understand or
I know what you're
comprehend.
saying. I'm saying a lot. You say things, but you don't like to stay accountable to it. You say, no, I'm saying this. No, I'm saying this. No, I'm saying this. Why won't you give me definitive answers?
I agree with Ethan here, but I think he should give him like a little bit of time to talk.
Well, I'm equating it. You know what? It is the same. If a child wants to be a dinosaur, you don't cut off their
Okay, it's the same.
body parts.
It's the same.
As being
Gender-
it's the same as medically transitioning a child and
maybe
giving them surgery.
Good. I'm glad you said that. Gender dysmorphia is a known.
That makes gender dysphoria. This makes sense though, because Ali doesn't have gender dysphoria; it just pretends to have it. So this makes sense why they would say something that's like comparing it to that. It is like in our conversation yesterday, we were chatting with a Cheeto, and in that conversation, the young man was like, "Yeah, I don't really care that Chris Tyson transitioned." Because I also don't care if people do drugs, and I'm like, well, that's not really the same thing. Like that's not the same thing. It's it's a little belittling. It just shows that like you're not super educated on gender dysphoria, but Ali here claimed to have it, so that makes it so much worse.
Medical condition. Is there any literature about transitioning to be a dinosaur? Not that you know of. Right, but you said it's the same, but clearly it's not, right? Because
No, I'm equating
transitioning is
I'm
accepted by
equating a
the...
kid. Sorry, I'm equating a kid identifying in a different way. You don't just suddenly say, if a kid feels a certain way, oh, we're going to do this operation, we're going to give you hormones. Kids
Of course that doesn't happen, Ollie. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. You have a child who's experiencing gender dysmorphia so severe that they're going to kill themselves. Dysphoria, excuse me. They're undergoing panels and doctors and stuff. And this kid, we know, and this has happened, either we intervene or the child kills themselves. What's your decision?
Most kids grow up.
Dysphoria. That's an out of context. That is an out of context statistic. That is actually referring to gender identity disorder, or does research on gender identity disorder, which has been phased out partly because you're not even properly diagnosed. So
most kids do not grow out of gender dysmorphia. Not only 99. Oh, that's a small number of them, and 99% who get the operations don't regret it. You have to answer this, Ollie. This is important. If there's a child that's going to kill itself unless it gets gender affirming care, what is your decision? Let them give them the treatment or not?
No, you give them mental health support instead. You do not.
No. That's not what I'm asking. If this kid
support. So that is the pathway that mental health professionals have come to the conclusion is the best right now as mental health support. Kind of move from there. That's where I would go with this
phenomenon. This happens. Do you let them get the treatment, or do you make them wait till they're 18?
You give them other support instead.
So they kill themselves.
No,
how is that kind, Ollie? How is that kind that you're letting children kill themselves instead of letting them get gender-affirming, life-saving care? Which, by the way, happens only irreversible gender care, gender surgeries and stuff. Only happens like 250 times a year.
No, it doesn't happen.
Well, you have no statistics to back that up.
Well, there's a clinic in Oregon. I can send you the statistics. There's a clinic in Oregon that does at least 300 surgeries on kids a year. So that's just one clinic.
That's impossible. That's not true.
Well, that's probably not true. But I mean, maybe they do surgeries on kids for like broken arms. But either way, that's not a detransitioning statistic, which is what I'm looking for.
There's 60 clinics in the US that are pediatric.
Over years. Yeah, 60 over years. So, but again, there's 50 million kids in America, Ollie. That's not.
Dude, it gets so weird when Ethan starts steamrolling this conversation. It's just like
a lot.
But I'm saying there's 60 gender clinics that are performing these surgeries every single week across the country. So look it up and see how many.
Let's say that of the 1,000, there's 10.
But I don't think on kids though. And the one that he did show, apparently that person was going against the law, so they got in trouble.
Kids who were going to kill themselves. Do we let them get this treatment or not?
Again, you give the kids mental health support.
You're choosing for them to kill themselves, Ollie.
No, I'm not. Don't try to say that.
But you are. But that's what you're saying, Ollie.
I'm not saying
that is what you're saying. You're denying them life-saving, gender-affirming care.
No, I'm saying give the kids mental health support.
Yeah, you're saying use this avenue that doesn't work, that's not going to work to prevent you from killing yourself. You're telling them you cannot have the antidote that's going to save your life. You can only do the therapy that I approve of. You can only do the therapy that I say is okay for you, Ollie. You went through this whole gender transition. Why do you deny people the journey that you yourself had?
Because he didn't go through any gender transition. He lied about getting diagnosed, and he just has like an obsession with surgeries. So he's a liar.
Because I had that journey as an adult, and even though I regret it, I was an adult. But kids cannot consent. So I'll say it again.
Kids can't consent to anything. Kids can't consent to anything.
But even this is irreversible. We're not just.
No, it's not. Sometimes it's not. Most of the times it is irreversible. And when it's not reversible, it's done under extreme care, under doctor supervision. You want this kid to kill themselves, Ollie. How do you live with that? How do you betray the community, the trans community that you're a part of? You sold yourself out for some attention and some money, and you are dooming kids to kill themselves. How do you live with that? Before it was cute, silly stuff about transracial and BTS and pop stuff, and it was just silly nonsense about little racist stuff about Korean people having tiny penises. But now you're actually delving into transphobic, violent transphobia that is going to result in kids dying. You're going to have to reckon with that, Ollie.
Maybe. No, absolutely not. You're trying to paint me out as saying
I'm
this.
only saying what you said.
Cannot consent. No, Ethan,
kids
I'm not
can't
saying
consent
that.
to anything.
Kids cannot consent to irreversible hormones or surgeries, Ethan.
Okay, a kid needs to get his leg removed because he has leg cancer. Should he be able to get the leg removed?
Well, if he has a cancer, yes.
Okay, so what's the fucking difference? He can't consent to have his leg removed. That's irreversible.
It's a good point, yeah.
Well, many of these kids are being pushed into it. Many grow out of gender dysphoria. If you Google right now,
but I'm telling you, kids kill themselves if they don't get this treatment. In the rare case that it's that severe, about 250 a year.
Well, show me. Okay, pull up a case then.
I'm sure we can do that. That's not a problem. Give me 1 second.
This whole thing is
gender affirming care is mental health support, right?
There are other ways.
It's actually the American Institute of Psychiatry and Kids Health Pediatrics. They all agree that the correct care for children with dysmorphia.
The next question would be like, why do you think that it's some kind of like indoctrination when you have like legitimate medical institutions saying that it's real and that these and this is the best way to operate? That would be the next question.
Is gender affirming care? Do you know more than Pediatrics Association and Psychiatrists Association?
Yeah, because all of these companies, they made $2.2 billion transitioning kids last year. So it's a multi-billion-dollar industry with a lot of power.
So people make.
Oh, so they think everything's a conspiracy. Okay, then same thing for every other treatment. Like it doesn't. This is like a silly point.
So people make money from it. So therefore, we shouldn't let kids save their lives.
No, you can provide. I'm not going to keep going on about the same thing. You can provide kids with the right mental health support that doesn't include putting them on harmful hormones that can cause irreversible issues. And when they
You're right. We should make it free. You're right. People shouldn't be charged for it.
Yeah. That would be the solution, actually. Unironically, within their little joke, that would be the solution. So.
No,
I'm just not going to keep going about the same thing, Ethan. I need to go anyway. It's quite late.
Ollie, you really have sold your soul in this one. You know what I mean? Like
so
before it was cute and innocent, but this new one is really
I don't know what
sick.
to play.
And I mean, the balls of you to sell a fucking lunch pail with a trans person on it while telling people that they're grooming kids. I mean, you're just a fucking hypocrite, dude.
Ethan, you said some horrific comments about Ben Shapiro saying that he should be gassed making the Holocaust. So you shouldn't be.
I didn't say that. I said. I'll tell you exactly what I said. And how dare you say such a.
You said that.
I made a joke that he's perpetuating anti-Semitism, and therefore, if there's another, then he can go, and
yeah, he can go first. That was the joke there. Yeah, I get it.
I'm happy to go right behind him. I am Jewish though, so chill out.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying it's not something to joke about. So when you're trying to criticize me for certain things, you've also said some things that are very harmful as well.
Well, hold on.
Also take accountability.
So you're admitting that what you say about trans people is offensive?
No, I'm talking about my past behaviors have been harmful. I'm talking about my past behaviors, have been harmful.
I'm not talking about your past behavior. I'm talking about what you're doing now that endangers children because you're trying to make a quick buck.
I'm helping people. Ethan.
I don't know, bro.
You're helping Tucker Carlson spread propaganda that's going to kill trans people, and you're selling a book called Gender Madness. After you, how long have you been how long have you been a man? How long have you been detransitioned? And you're writing a book already?
It's been 7 months.
7 months, Ollie? I mean, you were trans for years. How are you going to spend 7 months as a man and then presume to tell people how to live their lives? That doesn't even make sense, Ollie. How dare you? 7 months? That's not enough time to give me an informed decision about what it means to transition, especially when you lived as a trans person for so long.
Yeah, but the book is about how I got to where I was, what led me to that, and how people struggle with different identities. It's actually a self-help book, so it's very positive, empowering about different ways people can help themselves.
Gender Madness. Here's your best friend, Jamie Mitchell, who's the founder of Gays Against Groomers, supporting... Well, here, just watch.
What's happening now would make, I think Joseph Mengele, I believe that was his name, the Nazi doctor, this puts him to shame. Do
you believe that's an appropriate analogy?
Well, Joseph Mengele tortured and performed horrific medical procedures on kids.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same here. Like, actually tortured them.
Jewish kids during the Holocaust.
He also committed a genocide against trans people, by the way.
He committed a genocide against trans people as well. Well, if jokes about the Holocaust are off the limit, let's be consistent.
They are basically using an entire generation
How dare you?
Of children as lab rats for this sick ideology. And
sounds like him right now.
Like any abuse of kids, any experimentation on kids is wrong.
And a threat to that.
Okay.
You've been very open about, your conservative voice as well. Is it hard to be?
OAN News, wild. It's fucking crazy, dude. My fucking mother-in-law watches that with her fucking husband. It's nuts, dude. It just boggles my fucking mind, dude. It's wild.
To have a conservative voice now?
Yeah, I mean, I am personally conservative. I've actually had an online presence as the Gay Who's Straight on Instagram primarily for over 6 years.
What does that mean?
Do you believe that doctors are performing Nazi-like experiments on trans kids?
Doctors are experimenting on kids.
To what end? What is the experiment?
They're not really experimenting on kids. So, like, I mentioned this before, but basically what's happening is that, like, they're performing things on kids that have, right now, all the data says that this is the right way to go and has the best mental health outcome. It is possible that as we continue to, do these treatments, that we might find out that some of it was wrong and we might have to change. Not all of it's going to be wrong. So, but that you can technically maybe consider that part of an experiment, but there's no other way to go. Hey, this is the information we have right now. This is the best way to operate. Let's do the best we can. 5 years from now, oh wait, this might be a little better. 5 years from now, oh, this might be a little better. That's what it's all about. That's how we literally deal with a lot of issues.
Any medical mutilation on kids is bad. And
experiment underlies a thesis. What is their thesis?
I'm saying there's no long-term data on how does this affect a kid.
Yes, there is. 99% don't regret it.
How does this affect a kid 20 years down the line?
They're happy. 99% are happy.
Unfortunately, you're just not going to be able to find that out until 20 years passes. So for you, this is the problem. We have two. So what he's saying, and partially he has a point, but his point is garbage, and I'll explain to you. I'll literally just give you a how. Basically, his point is that we don't fully have all the information, so allowing them to transition could be really bad. Okay, fair enough. Why is it so loud? I turned it down. Fair enough. So right now, the way the doctors are interacting is saying like, okay, this is the best. We're going to do the best we can with what we know. So what you're saying is to just do nothing and let people continue to suffer, even if it's not perfect. That's what you're saying. Do nothing and let these kids suffer. Don't even try. Literally, just let them fail and die. Like that's what you're saying. That's the logic. That's really being expressed here.
It's the issues with the look at the study by Dr. Bradley, Canadian. She was the pioneer for performing these gender-affirming cares on kids.
What if I told you that Dr. Bradley was a quack?
Well, they're all quacks. Anyone that experiments on kids in the first place is a quack.
All right, Ollie. Anyway. Thank you for spending your time. I do appreciate you coming on.
But no, it's good to talk.
It was something, but I do think that since God created God created trans people, you know what I mean? And when Kingdom Come, you're gonna have to answer for what you're doing. This is not kindness. Jesus does not hate trans kids.
Jesus doesn't hate anyone, but what I've been saying throughout the interview, and we've spoke about this already, is I'm simply speaking up about we shouldn't do this to kids. I know you're trying to make the argument that this can lead to.
It's not happening to kids, Ollie. It's 250 a year.
It's not 250.
Yes, it is. You're just making that up. That's bullshit.
No, you can look on Google.
I've looked up every single thing you've said. I fact checked every single thing you said. It's all propaganda. It's all lies. I've systematically dismantled every single point you have.
But you can look at Dr. Gallagher in Miami and see how many operations she does on kids. That's just one clinic. There are 60 clinics plus that are doing this. So imagine every single clinic added up. They're profiting from this. It's $70,000 they make from a girl.
All right, Ollie Linden, who is in favor of kids killing themselves. Thank you for calling.
Ethan ended so poorly here. He was doing so well at the beginning, and it just turned into like poopy garbage. It got so bad. That's my opinion. Like it just went to such a weird spot, So,
but that's not even funny to joke about things like that.
Oh, I'm not joking, my friend.
Ethan, I've been talking about mental health support. That's the real issue here. We need to help people with their struggles and not be putting them on medication.
Ollie London, who's in favor of kids killing themselves.
Ethan, not cool. Right. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Well,
today.
It is not cool. Actually, that's putting it mildly. It's actually demonic.
No, it's not cool that you're trying to say that I'm pro.
But that's literally what you're doing. It's what you've said, my friend.
No, it's not. It's about. I've been saying about we need to give mental health support instead of putting all of these kids on
gender affirmation is mental health support.
We'll agree to disagree, and good luck.
Okay.
I mean, you could disagree with that point, but you're just objectively wrong. Like every single institution that we are operating under understands that this is like the fact. But okay, I think we're finally done.
You're a demon.
Okay, a semen demon.
Have a good night. Wow.
Oh, have a good night. Okay.
Well done. Well done.
I don't know if we got anywhere with him because
we didn't get anywhere with him, but
because he's like
he didn't get
slippery,
anybody, but
he's smarter or more prepared. I would say he's like media trained, unlike Sebastian or
have a good night guy.
The next thing dude.
I mean, maybe in Ethan's defense, he's trying to say that since Ali is a grifter, Ali knows better and is actively trying to get people to die. But
he's got this media training that they're slippery, but the man is selling a fucking lunchbox with it.
All right. Well, listen, the conversation was pretty good the first half. It went a little bit out of control towards the end. I feel like it could have been a little more productive, but it was something, I suppose.